Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, July 5th Town Board Legislative Meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please rise with me and for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And would our clerk please call the roll?
Drawe.
Here.
Kohl.
Here.
Lee is absent. Ockenden.
Here.
Thank you. And first on the agenda, we have 3 public hearings tonight. So I'm sure without further ado, we'll get started here. The first one is, I will have the clerk, well, before I should ask our counsel, is this?
Wait, I haven't read it. I have to read it.
Okay, read it first. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks, Amy. Apologize.
To allow the use of the existing property located at 1225 Empire Boulevard for support operations and ancillary parking for K2 Brothers Brewery. The legal notice was published in the Webster Herald on June 22nd, 2023, posted on the website and the Town Clerk Bulletin Board. 5 postcards were mailed.
Thank you. I should ask our attorney now, was this hearing properly before us?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, sir.
And on Madam Supervisor, I would like to interject something right before Carrie speaks on this particular public hearing. The town has a postcard mailing policy that specifies the distance for postcard mailings based on the size of the property. This is not a law, but a courtesy that the town provides for our residents when planning to conduct a public hearing. Based on the town's postcard policy, postcards were sent to properties located within the specified distance from the applicant's property. In this case, the property is 3.1 acres, which requires postcards to be sent within a 750-foot radius from the applicant's property.
Thank you. Ms. Ivers, I'll turn this over to you, our Director of Development.
Yes, thank you. So this is a property that's located in the LaSalle's Landing District, which is why it's before you, which it states in the regulations that changes in operation require a new special use permit to be issued. And in this case, they are proposing some property maintenance. So we thought it best to prepare sort of a conceptual site plan that might show how that property maintenance, what that will look like. The proposed application was submitted to us by K2 Brewing to utilize the property for ancillary operational support, in addition to ancillary or parking as well. They're not proposing any changes to the existing building that would be used to house materials and supplies that they use for their production at 1221 Empire Boulevard. Some of the temporary, the greenhouses or the stands, things that would have been used by Agway would be removed. They don't serve a purpose for the proposed or prospective owners of the property. And so what I will share is, so then they're before the board and the public hearing is required before the town board can consider a special use permit.
Thank you.
And I'm looking over at Peter to make sure I didn't miss anything.
I think they're also for
Your microphone.
site plan review also, is that right?
We're doing preliminary final site plan just because they are going to be making some improvements or property maintenance. They're proposing they're going to be keeping the existing structure. There's no proposed changes in the existing curb cut on Empire Boulevard. I believe they might be proposing some site lighting that may not be there currently, and so that's part of the reason we had them do a preliminary and final site plan.
Thank you.
And they also did provide, this is also located in the local waterfront revitalization program boundary, and they have provided us with the waterfront assessment form. So that'll be part of this board's review. We're in the process of reviewing that as well.
Thank you. All right. I believe we have some people signed up to speak at this public hearing?
Yes. So the first one I have is Mark Drexler. You can come to one of the
Either
mics.
microphone mark is fine, of all the
Oh,
four.
forgive me, I'm so sorry. Could we have, typically the applicant presents
You know, I
first?
thought you would like to do that. So
I am
yes.
so sorry.
Thanks,
Yeah, the
Mark. Well,
applicant's here, and
yes,
they certainly
I
ready to
see.
make a presentation.
I felt that you would like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Forgive me, I'm sorry. I should
That's-
have
No, I
passed it over.
was wondering if you didn't want to. Any microphone there. There you go. Okay.
Oh, I can be bringing up. I'm going to bring up the images on the
Okay.
screen as well at the
Great,
same
thank
time.
you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Mike Ritchie from Costume Engineering, here with Lori Kennedy of K2 Brewing.
Welcome.
As Carrie introduced us so well, we are looking to repurpose the existing agway on Empire Boulevard to be operational production support for the K2 Brewing in support of their brewing operations and their restaurant operations, as well as provide overflow parking within the existing gravel areas. I don't know if any of the board members are familiar with Agway, if they've been there. It's basically gravel from property line to property line. We're not proposing any disturbances short of, removal of existing propane tank, removal of some maybe stockade fences, some maybe small pothole areas that maybe need a little bit of crusher run stone just so they're not, puddles. In addition to that, in terms of access to connect to the existing K2 brewery and restaurant, we're proposing a sidewalk that connects from the 1221 to 1225. We have submitted the conceptual site plan to the New York State DOT for their review. So the intent would be that parking predominantly would be in the Agway parking lot, at least predominantly employees and staff to start with. I think K2 has to work out the operations, but they've done a pretty good job so far in terms of organizing traffic on some of their busier nights, and I can let Lori talk more about that. But essentially, we are requesting a change in use from the garden center to operational support and a parking lot to support the K2 brewing. But beyond that, we're not really proposing any site modifications. And we'd be happy to answer any questions the board has or listen to comment that the public has.
Okay.
Lori, do you have anything to add?
Ward?
I had just one question. Again, just reviewing this concept drawing, and I think you probably answered my question, though. So this has been submitted to State DOT for review?
Correct.
And
Yep.
you're just kind of waiting on their feedback at this point?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
We anticipate we'll have to get a permit to put that part of that sidewalk in the right-of-way.
Okay, so it would be in the right-of-way?
A portion, yeah. Most of it would be on the K2 property, but a small portion would be in the right-of-way along Wilbur Tract Road.
Okay, so they'll answer the question I think that I was going to ask, which is there enough space there
Right.
from the roadway to the crosswalk?
Yep.
But they'll be the experts, I guess, that'll weigh in on that, so.
Yep.
Okay.
That was the main question, really.
Yeah. Lori, is there anything you'd like to add?
We've
we should
already had the company come in, and they already are plotting out the updated wetlands. So we have that in process. As Mike said, he's already submitted to the DOT, so I think we've, at least initiated everything that we need to, comply with
Sure.
all of our government issues.
Sure. Okay. Carrie, am I missing anything else we missed?
I was going to say that's the DOT is the permitting agency there, so we'll be awaiting their response. And then to the extent that the wetland delineation comes through and gets submitted to the town. This is under review currently with the engineering department as
Yep,
well.
I
So
was gonna say.
they'll identify
PRC
any
will look at
changes
it.
or tweaks consistent with past applications. Always the town engineer has the final say before anything gets to move forward, even after the board has approved. That's always a stated condition of any application or project.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Valentine, for being here, too. So I know that there's a few people signed up to speak at this public hearing.
Yes, our first person is Mark Drexler.
You guys are welcome to stay there. That's fine, or whatever. Yep.
Good
Hello, Mark.
evening.
Good evening.
I'm Mark Drexler, and I'm of counsel to Forsyth Howe, O'Dwyer, Calvin, Murphy. And we represent Bayview Apartments and Dr. Howitt. And we'd like to draw your attention to the site plan submitted in connection with the pending application. It includes a driveway over property east of Wilbur Tract Road that's owned by my client. And my client has been discussing possible right-of-way with K2, but we have not yet agreed on terms. What I was going to be talking about before I heard about the sidewalk was that if the pending application's approved and no right-of-way is agreed upon, then the K2 patrons' only access to the brewery from the proposed parking lot would be by way of walking along the shoulder of Empire Boulevard. We would submit that pedestrian traffic along Empire Boulevard is unsafe and not in the best interests of the town. I did not see the proposed sidewalk that's being spoken about on the site plan, unless it's an area with dashed lines that crosses Wilbur Tract Road. I don't know if that's what it is.
So for the board and the viewing members at home, what is on the screen currently in the room is a updated plan that was submitted by the applicant today. So this is the latest and greatest. The application, the original application had a slightly different configuration. So this will be added to the website so that, or replaced, because now this is the proposed concept.
And Carrie, do I understand that the applicant has eliminated the proposed drive access that would have gone
Correct.
to Wilbur Tract? Okay.
Right, so now there's a pedestrian connection that's shown here, where for folks who can see, and I apologize, and I'm happy to show anyone on the paper copy as well. Just beyond the private property is you're within the state's right-of-way. So what looks and feels like K2's property or Agway's property, quite a bit of it is actually located in the New York State DOT's right-of-way. So they're proposing the sidewalk connection traverse along that section of Wilbur Tract Road. And so that's where it's located currently. That's why, in addition to the property being adjacent to a state highway, which would have required the state's review of this application, they would be the permitting agency who would grant access or sidewalk installation in this vicinity.
Right, correct. Okay.
Thank you. I hadn't seen that drawing until the hearing tonight. We were relying on the one that was submitted with the application.
Yeah, the applicant provided an update earlier today, so we didn't have the opportunity to update the website, providing that to the town board, and then we'll update the website as quickly as possible.
All right. The site plan also shows an easement from Empire Boulevard onto Wilbur Tract Road. And the board should be aware that this is an emergency easement only, and so it's available to the town, but not to any private individual. If the board is interested, I brought copies of that easement with me. But it should not be considered something that makes that section of road publicly available. Let's see. Now, we are the contract vendors for a parking lot located to the south of Bayview Apartments. And K2, as a condition of that purchase, had agreed to contribute $75,000 toward the construction of a left turn lane on Empire Boulevard. And they've indicated, they, K2, have indicated that if this application is approved, that they will likely not consummate the purchase of the parking lot on my client's property. If all that comes to pass, then K2 will receive the benefit of the left-turning lane as it passes in front of the Empire Boulevard entrance to the proposed parcel. And they would not then be required to pay the $75,000 that they previously agreed to pay toward the cost of the left-turn lane. And it's our position that that would constitute an unjust enrichment of K2, and we would want to still see them make their contribution for that left-turn lane. So for all of the reasons that I've discussed tonight, my client opposes the pending application. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Jack Howitt.
We have only this past Thursday become aware of this proposal. It's only today that there's been changes to the proposal. None of it as it impacts our property, to my knowledge, has been discussed nor brought to our attention. We therefore are requesting that the board give some time for this to, for lack of a better verbiage, perhaps mellow, and give us an opportunity to determine what effects this may have on our properties, and whether what they're now suggesting does not impact on the property that is owned by Bayview Apartments, and request the board to delay an approval for this at this time.
So, Mr. Hellett, I should tell you that this is just a public hearing. No approvals will be made tonight on this project at all. In fact, it will go back to be discussed, as Ms. Ivers mentioned, with our engineering department through PRC here with town staff. And also, we will not be bringing this up again until our next work session on the 19th of July.
I see. That was not clear, and that's helpful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's all I have for this one.
Okay.
That signed up.
Can I just ask Mark or Carrie, do we have a copy of that easement that Mr. Drexler referred to? Do we know? Or Peter? Is it?
I believe we do, but if he's got one
Yeah,
here tonight, if we can turn it into the clerk and we'll
Okay,
just
yeah.
verify we've got the same in our records.
Thank you.
Just make
You
sure
can
the
give it
clerk
right
has
to the clerk. Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you, so.
She's the keeper of the information.
Yes.
She doesn't trust me with documents.
Nor should she. No, I'm kidding.
I'll take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No one else has signed up to speak?
Not for this particular.
Thank you.
public
Is there
hearing.
anyone else in the audience that would care to speak on this project? Seeing none, I'm not seeing anything come in on the web or any calls downstairs. Thank you very much. So at this time, unless anyone has any further thing to add?
The only thing I would like to, I know Dr. Hout was concerned on how it would impact his, with most of the cars entering through Empire Boulevard, it would cause less access coming into Wilbur Track Road and more access going straight into the Agway property. So at that point, it would not, cause as much of an effect with his property or parking around that area or anything. And then to mention about the 75,000, that had to do with incentive zoning with the town. There was no agreement with Dr. Howitt. It was an incentive agreement with the town of Penfield. And if we chose not to purchase the property, then we wouldn't have that incentive zoning that we would need to acquire.
Board, any other questions?
Actually, I do have a question, if I could ask.
Thank you.
Sorry that it's blocking, but do you have any proposed signage for the entrance off of Empire for the Agway property?
We're willing to do pretty much anything that is either allowed or required. We're open for suggestions. We've thought about, putting a sign for parking there, but we wanted to wait until we at least have permission for the property before we propose any kind of signage.
Okay. Right. There would be some guidance signage for the general public to avoid confusion.
Okay.
Okay. I've seen none. I'm going to close this public hearing. I thank you very much for coming, and we'll turn it over for our second public hearing.
To consider a local law to amend Chapter 94 of the Penfield Town Code, which is building construction. The legal notice was published in the Webster Herald on June 22nd, 2023, posted on the website and Town Clerk Bulletin Board. No postcards were mailed due to this being a townwide action.
Okay, thank you. And I should ask our attorney if this public hearing is in properly before the board?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ivers.
I'll provide a very brief overview.
Okay.
This is a local law to make a minor correction to the existing town code. The town code was adopted several months back, and it was following a New York State Department of State model, and it included an exemption that conflicted with past practice of the town. And so realizing after the fact and too late that exemption was not removed prior to the town board adopting it, we wanted to strike that from the existing town code. And the exemption is that states that sheds up to a certain size are exempt from a building permit. However, it would allow very large storage sheds to be constructed, and without a building permit, often property owners would not know that they were encroaching into easements, into other people's property, into environmental protection overlay districts, other things that might be needed or maybe not allowed. And so we felt it best to revert back to the original order of things and have all sheds require a building permit. This will effectively make that typo correction in the code, and any change to language in the code requires a local law.
Right. Thank you. So, board, any questions on that?
No, I think we discussed that at work session and understood the need for this. So.
Yes.
Is there anyone that signed up to speak at this public hearing?
No.
Seeing none. Okay. I would then call this public hearing closed. And we have our next, our third public hearing.
To consider a local law to amend Chapter 94 of the Penfield Town Code. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
That's okay.
Want to do that one again?
It was so easy. Let's do it again.
Okay, I apologize. The draft of the 2023 Comprehensive Plan Update, the legal notice was published in the Webster Herald on June 22nd, 2023, posted on the website and Town Clerk Bulletin Board. No postcards were mailed due to this being a townwide action.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Ivers, I will turn it over to you, or before I should ask Pete
Yes.
if this public hearing is in order.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Ivers, if you'd like to just give us a brief recap of this.
Sure. I'll give a general overview, I think, for anybody either in the audience or anyone watching at home. In general, a comprehensive plan is a policy document that's adopted by municipalities, provides a vision for communities' future, and provides a legal foundation for future land use and zoning decisions. It identifies community priorities and the potential resources and actions that may be needed to achieve them. For the town of Penfield, the 2023 comprehensive plan update is really just that. It's an update of the 2010 plan. Mark can speak better to the past efforts of the Comprehensive Plan Committee that took painstaking efforts to go through that 2010 comprehensive plan, identify needs and potential opportunities that the town of Penfield should explore in the next planning horizon. So those updates and changes were identified. This update doesn't identify any significant changes in future land use and development patterns, but it does affirm past decisions in land use policies and directions, and it also affirms the town's commitment to reasonable physical development, natural resource protection, preservation of open space and agricultural lands, and just in general, the same types of things that were looked at in 2010, those same themes are carried forward. The policy areas in the update include residential living, community resources, economic development, agricultural opportunities, natural resources, sustainability, transportation, community character and design, and civic engagement. As an update, the draft plan really has very similar content and flow. This update has as the 2010 plan, but there are some noticeable changes. One of them is that in the past plan, the existing conditions analysis, which is data heavy, lots of detail, was maybe chapter 2 of the document. So you get into the document and you have to stop to read through all of the data. We move that to the appendices and have a community profile that provides more of just an overview of sort of general direction. There were 2 new policy areas added in this plan. To call them out sort of separately, that was agricultural opportunities and sustainability. Those items were reflected in the 2010 plan, but the Comprehensive Plan Committee felt that those really should be brought into their own and separated, which has been a really great change. I think that the other thing that this plan does is it compiles the implementation recommendations or implementation action items into a consolidated section, still in a table form, still identifying potential partners and timeframes, but having them consolidated into one place makes it a nice, easy tool for progress tracking for the town board, for town staff, and for the community at large. The other change I'll point out, and this is sort of maybe a planning geek type of thing, but in the past, the updated plans were prepared very even years, 2000, 2010, and even this plan was proposed to be the 2020. COVID and a variety of other things prompted a delay to that happening in 2020. However, the opportunity here is the planning horizon now is going to be a 12-year planning horizon, so the next plan will be updated and ready for update in 2035. The reason for that is having it on the even years sounds lovely, but the U.S. Census data is not out yet. So what happens is the plan gets updated, and then 3, 4, 5 years later, the town staff and or the committee sort of have to regroup to say, okay, was the census everything we thought it was going to be? Now having the plan updates happen at the midpoint of each decade will allow staff and the future Comprehensive Plan Committee to have the benefit of potential U.S. Census data results, which is really helpful.
Great.
I think that's enough of
That's
me
okay.
talking about it. And I apologize, I had hoped to have present, PowerPoint was having a little glitch with technology today, so
That's fine. I think there's
just a
quite a few
verbal description from me, but
I think there's quite a few people here that would like to speak on this anyway,
Okay.
so they probably, so I will turn it over to our clerk.
And I took this in the order of which I received them.
Okay.
Bottom up. So the first person I have is Robert Peterson.
And you can come up to any of the microphones, and if you just want to state where your address is. Sure. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Peterson.
I wasn't prepared to be first.
Sorry, Bob.
First of all, I want to say thank you, not only to the town staff, but also to those committee members that put all the time into this plan. Carrie did a good job of explaining the importance of it. It's really the foundation for all the zoning and land use decisions we make for the next 12 years. Down in Queens, where I grew up before college, we would say it ain't chopped liver, but it's pretty good, important stuff. It's good that we get it right. I guess they've been working on it 5 years, 3 years, not including COVID. And I've did some proofreading from my experience on, I served on 2 previous committees, the Shadow Pines, Shadow Lake Moratorium Committee, and the Shadow Pines Land Use Committee. So I know about the long hours, and I learned how to do a little proofreading. So I've got some 8 pages of corrections that I'll give you, Carrie. And I would only like to talk about a few of those, and I've got handouts for the other stuff, but if we go through the corrections, can I give these to Carrie?
Sure, you can give them to the clerk. You want? Okay,
Oh,
one
do you-
day. Okay.
Oh, okay, this is edits to the actual
that's good.
document for staff. So, Amy, for the record, do you want me, I can get you a copy, or we can
Sure.
start it with you and then?
I have copies. I'll give you.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
great.
In fact, I'll do that now.
Oh, we each have our own name, I think. So that's very, came prepared. Excellent.
These are for the town board members. I'd like Candace to have them also.
Yep.
And I've got one for you that includes the marking pages.
Okay.
I'm going to work from that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Without going into the details of all the changes, one thing I did notice, it's fairly important, the town's official zoning map, the current zoning map, is missing from Appendix B. I think that should...
We'll take a look at that. It might just be an omission from, it's a
Okay,
multitude
you
of
would intend that
PDFs.
that would be in there.
That would certainly was supposed to be in there, so it just means when the PDF was consolidated into one file,
Right.
there was a missing file. Thank you.
Yeah,
for noting
Appendix
that.
B is a collection of very colorful charts, a bunch of them, but seems to me the zoning map and the future land use map are the 2 most important. Most of these are just details that, Carrie, you can look at. I did have a suggested quote from the town's publication on zoning and the comp plan that might fit better. But is there any possibility you could bring up the future land use map? I had 3 things I wanted to address there.
You know, Bob, we're just going to really take comments tonight, and we will
Okay.
address them with, we don't really have, the time to go back and forth on every single point at this. We
All right, well,
appreciate
there
this.
is, okay, then maybe Carrie and I can do that offline?
I'm
That's a question.
happy
That's
to
a
follow up.
question.
I'm happy to
Sure.
follow up after the meeting.
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah.
Then the other things I wanted to talk about are 3 important items or areas that I feel are missing from the current draft. Excuse me. The draft shows that they're aware of a problem, that there's a scarcity of affordable public housing, affordable housing units. And the plan acknowledges that that Penfield definitely has a shortage there, and but I didn't see any plan to address that. I was expecting it might be part of the mixed-use development area, but it seems that that's mostly designed for what's called market rate rentals or housing units. So it seems to me we do have a deficit when it comes to affordable housing, at least if you take the medium for people that are at the Monroe County medium of $66,000 a year for household. It seems to me we are definitely short. It troubles me that our governor has made that a priority of hers to go after what she considers restrictive zoning. And I don't know about our plan, our zoning, but a couple of places in the narrative in the plan, it refers to Penfield as being a high-quality bedroom town, and it is, and I agree with it. I've lived here for 60 years, and I've enjoyed it as a high-quality bedroom town, but I'm not sure how that plays, and I hate the concept of window dressing, but maybe we need some. I don't know what to do about it, but I know it's a problem. It would be good if we could attract people from other areas of the city and the county to come to Penfield to enjoy our wonderful quality of life and all the green space we have. I see that as a weakness in the plan. The second topic I have in mind is our green spaces. We have a wonderful collection of parks, fields, and now shadow pines. And in the handout I've given the town board, there's a list of 19 spaces in town that you can call green space or open space, including Thousand Acre Swamp and our parks, and shadow pines, of course. And what bothers me is that all these areas are zoned for housing, R120, R115, perhaps with the exception of Thousand Acre Swamp, Abraham Lincoln Park, which is CR2, and I'm not sure what that is, but it's conservation residence, I think. I guess it's not considered non-compliant use because the green space is at a higher zoning level than, say, R120. But in my mind, if it's zoned for housing, these spaces, if they are not dedicated parks, could someday become housing. And I would really like the town to we've got 12 more years to go here. I would like to see some work put towards thinking about either developing an open space or green space zoning ordinance for the town to protect all these sites, or at least think about getting Shadow Pines dedicated as a park. I understand that Shadow Pines was purchased for municipal use, and I'm not sure how solid the commitment is to keep that as open space. And I do have a question. Could the town in the next few years decide to sell Shadow Pines if they decided it was not a good expenditure to spend on maintaining that as open space? It's not a dedicated park. I don't know what it takes to get it dedicated. But my question is, could you sell that?
No, we can't sell
No?
it. We wouldn't sell. I mean, I can speak for...
I know you said you wouldn't sell, but did you say you can't sell it?
That, I'm not sure that we can, according to our...
Well, I mean,
We could if we wanted to.
I mean, I think that's unlikely. I mean, I don't know that anybody's looked at that as a
I
possibility.
know it's unlikely,
Right.
but
Well, I mean, there might be some legal reasons why they couldn't, that I wouldn't be able to get into here. But it is subject to a bond. It's subject to public referendum on the acquisition.
I would hope it would at least need a referendum, because we had an overwhelming referendum to purchase it in the first place. But anyway,
But you are correct. If it
I
was-
think it's
if it
such a
was-
great site, and I think it really ought to be protected a little more strongly than just, I know there are bonds behind it, and maybe the bonds can't be called, and you can't sell it till the bonds expire. I don't know how that works, but that's an open issue for me. I would like to see either a green space
Okay.
zoning ordinance stated as a future objective, or that some indication that we would make the effort to get it dedicated as a town park. It's too good to lose.
Okay.
Next topic I had was the Dolomite Quarry, and it's near to my heart. I live a little over 500 yards from it. It's, just a par 5 golf hole away from where I live, and we've coexisted happily for 34 years. There's blasting and there's some asphalt fumes, and that's all quite manageable. Every once in a while, my dishes rattle and the dog barks, but that's about it. In those 34 years, I filed one complaint, and they came out, the DEC came out and took care of it. But the town seems to pretend it doesn't exist. I've worked on those 2 committees I mentioned, and we were prohibited from even discussing it in our work on the plans we worked on. It's the elephant in our town, in the middle of our town. There's nothing wrong with it as far as the operations go. It's run safely. It's a very important asset to our region and our local economy, and I'm sure that we collect a lot of taxes from the Dolomite Quarry. My concern is what happens when the quarry stops operations and they pull the grinding mills and the asphalt plant out of the pit. All that stuff is down in the pit. And I gave you some photographs. Mm-hmm. The black and white one is pretty poor. I'm sorry about that. But what I'm attempting to show there, that back in 1984, when the reclamation plan, oh, by the way, in order for the quarry to operate, they have to have their permit renewed every 5 years, and they do that. And part of the permit is a mine land use plan that includes a reclamation plan. 2 plans: how they run the quarry, and then how do they reclaim the quarry at the end of its life. The plan they've been rubber stamping for the last 30 or 40 years was written in 1984 when John M. Odenbach was in charge of Dolomite. And he painted a beautiful story about what will become of the quarry when they're done with it. He built 2 golf courses to surround it. He built the Shadow Pines, the Shadow Lake golf courses. He planted all the trees, all the pine trees. He was a great Penfield patriot. If he were still running the quarry, or if his sons were running the quarry, I wouldn't be sitting here tonight worrying about it, but he's not there. The sons are off doing other things, and the quarry was sold to a global aggregate and paving company called CRH PLC. They're headquartered in Dublin, Ireland. Their U.S. division is Oldcastle Materials, which is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. So the ultimate control of what happens to our quarry is really in the hands of people outside of Penfield, and I'm not completely easy with that. The what should really happen to the quarry is when they have finished working there, they remove all the equipment and the asphalt plant. All of that is down in the pit. The pit is 150 acres by 125 feet deep, roughly. When they stop operating and they turn off the pumps, it'll eventually flood with groundwater. Creek feeds from whatever creeks are there, Hip Brook or whatever it is. And it'll form what's supposed to be a beautiful lake that John Odenbach envisioned for the use and enjoyment of the people of Penfield. One of the drawings about that future plan shows a walkover from the lake, a pedestrian bridge over Whalen Road, so that you could get to the community center and shops and everything that would be constructed near the Clark House. So it's a beautiful story, but that was written in 1984. The quarry people no longer own the golf courses. And in 84, when that plan was put in, the only grinding tower that was making rocks into gravel sat up at the roadside level, was up at ground level. So there was no problem about getting asphalt chemicals, petroleum residues, even the maintenance shops for the trucks and the heavy-duty bulldozers and front loaders they use there. All that is done in the pit. So there's got to be a major problem of clearing that out before it floods with water. I don't see that in the plan. That's not in the reclamation plan that's been rubber stamped since 1984. So I think it's time the town paid some attention. Nobody's suggesting we shut down the quarry operation. There's no need to do that. It's too valuable an asset to do that, to even think about that. They've run it safely. I've not heard of any accidents. The accidents are all related to the trucks, and they have no control over the truck drivers. But I think the town should at least get a copy of the reclamation plan and keep it in the planning office. There's a library there. There's actually a plan going back to 1988 that I looked at. It's in the library that Jim Costello had. But you ought to have the plan to know what the future is, and maybe even start talking to the leadership over at the Dolomite Group headquarters is right here in Penfield, as you know. I don't know who the new leader is. It used to be John Seal, but I think that's changed. But why not invite him to come to a town board meeting and give us a little dissertation of how they see the future of the quarry? It could be a beautiful lake. Would they donate it to the town? Would the town have to buy it? I think now's the time to pay some attention. It has a huge influence on the outcome of Shadow Lake, and it could make a beautiful addition to that property. So I encourage you to stick your nose in the quarry's business, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that.
Bob, can I have that? Bob, were you going to give me that? Yes. Sorry. That's okay. Thank you. Daniel Moore.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, how you doing?
This is also for the residents back there, but as
Can you just give us your address too?
Sorry about that. So I live at 75 Cobbles Drive.
Thank you.
And hi, everyone. As you may or may not know, my name is Daniel Moore. I'm a near lifelong resident of the town of Penfield and a member of the town's Energy and Environmental Conservation Committee, EECC. Before I go into my comments, I have to say that I find it troubling that the Energy and Environmental Conservation Committee, or the Conservation Board, and the Energy and Environmental Advisory Committee prior to the merger was not asked for any input in this document before the public hearing. As the advisory committee discussing environmental sustainability, land use, energy, input would have been beneficial. This input would be particularly useful in the new sustainability section of the draft. I am glad the town has included a sustainability section as opposed to last time in the 2010 plan. However, I'm disappointed in the complete lack of substance related to the existential threat to humanity, climate change. The climate crisis does not discriminate when it comes to the disturbance and destruction of the environment we know today. Just look at the poor air quality we've had in recent weeks. Moreover, according to this document submitted by the New York State DEC, the days above 90 degrees will increase from 12 to 2 on the low estimate, or from 19 to 73 on the high estimate. This will be catastrophic to the agricultural industry that many residents in Penfield rely on for income. To name a few more climate disasters, by 2050, the climate in the region is projected to increase from around 3.7 to 7.3 degrees Fahrenheit each year. The number of heat waves, which is basically extreme heat lasting at least 4 days, would range from 4 to 5 by the mid-century. There are other effects of the ever-worsening climate crisis, but for the sake of time, I will move on. Over the last 3 years, I have brought up time and time again that the town desperately needs a climate action plan. In fact, during a meeting of the EECC, it was briefly talked about something the committee would start to research and possibly develop. However, in this draft of the comprehensive plan, there is no mention of the ongoing and rapidly developing climate crisis, no mention of the Monroe County Climate Action Plan that is being worked on, and no mention of the New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act that was passed in 2019 and is slowly being implemented right now. I urge, if not demand, that the comprehensive plan committee and/or town board to include climate change action. The town of Penfield is a great town. It would be a disservice to the current and future Penfield community if the comprehensive plan did not acknowledge and plan for the climate adaptation and resiliency. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Daniel, could I have that, or do you want to email it?
A link to it?
Sure. What, would you, okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Ruth Marchetti.
Hello, Ruth. How you doing?
Hello. I'm Ruth Marchetti, 227 Henderson Drive, just down the street from Bob, Penfield. So thank you. I'm encouraged by the attention that I'm speaking on the transportation section in the planning document. So I'm encouraged by the attention transportation receives in this draft of the plan, especially the concern for pedestrian and cyclist safety, reducing the need for driving, as well as trail connectivity for walkers and bicyclists. As we increasingly see the harmful effects of climate change, it is essential that Penfield's comprehensive plan includes strategies for allowing all people in every neighborhood in Penfield to access safe, efficient transportation that allows for walking, bicycling, and public transportation. The National Association of Realtors shows a strong preference for living in walkable communities, especially among the millennial and Gen Z generations, and that people who live in walkable neighborhoods have a high degree of satisfaction. Currently, the commercial areas of Panorama and the intersections of Route 441 and 250 are very difficult to access by foot or bicycle. There's no sidewalk or bike trail along 441 from Linden Avenue to Panorama, so it's very difficult for residents of the mobile home parks to work or shop without a car. Along 250, there is no sidewalk or separate bike lane from the Windsor Square complex to Eagle Vale, and accessing those sidewalks requires crossing a busy road on a hill with limited visibility. And I know because I did it just to, get a sense for what it was like. These dangerous roads should be prioritized for sidewalks. I'm happy to see that the draft plan states that senior housing developments should be connected to bus routes. Ideally, all people should have the option of choosing efficient public transportation to work and to access services. I encourage the town to work with RTS to enhance public transportation access. Currently, bicycling safety is very challenging in Penfield since main roads lack bike lanes and some, such as Atlantic Avenue, barely have paved shoulders. Connecting adjoining neighborhoods with public bike paths and creating more well-marked bike lanes on connecting roads would increase safety. Long-range planning should include the requirement that apartments and townhomes have access to charging stations for their plug-in electric vehicles. Penfield was a leader in installing the first public charging stations, but since that time, we've lagged behind other communities. We should also work with our business community to incentivize the installation of more level 2 public charging stations and educate them about funding resources. The town of Penfield should commit to zero-emission replacement vehicles for all sedans in the fleet, starting right away, immediately, and do a cost-benefit analysis of hybrid and/or EV trucks each year that trucks and other vehicles are purchased. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Ruth, I should tell you we got the first all-electric car in the fleet here behind us. So we're very excited about that. It's a start. It's a start.
Yes, is it the assessor?
The assessor. It's a small. Yep, the little Chevy Bolt. Yep.
Good start.
Thank you. Thanks again. Thank you for speaking.
Rosemary Irwin.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Irwin, 10 Blossom Circle West, and it's Town of Brighton, but Penfield School District. And I originally thought we were only supposed to speak for 2 minutes, so it won't be, I don't have a lot of things to say, and I was listening to you and how long you worked on this report, and I know you put a lot of time, you put a lot of trouble and everything else, and I'm going to end up saying that there's something that I really want to be rethought about the report itself, kind of a 2-minute kind of idea. And I first know that that's kind of an insult. And I was thinking when I was at home, how do I explain it? And there's a part I'll read you from your own report. Fiscal costs, benefits of various land uses, and then it has it in parentheses, source, American Farmland Trust, 2016. And I looked at that and I thought, well that's a PR for farmland. It's 2016, and then it says 2023 Comprehensive Plan Update. Now, it's the basic point it was trying to make is that if you're talking about receiving income and you are a town, you're going to end up with more income when you're taxing someone who's a farm versus you're taxing someone who's a residential person. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, fiscal cost. And this is where I'm hoping I can speak in a way that you understand. Let's say I bought a house. I thought it was a perfect house. And I have somebody inspect it and they tell me, yeah, but it's full of termites. And I don't know anybody who handles termites. I don't know anybody who's ever handled termites. But when I say we are in the midst of climate change, it's like having termites. And you can say, well, how much are we going to, put aside money for that cost? It's like, we don't know what that cost is going to be. We don't know exactly how it's going to come up. So the plan needs to acknowledge that we are in climate change. And it was funny because as I was trying to look at this, I got Nature magazine gives a little newsletter, and it said that July 3rd is the hottest day ever recorded on the planet Earth. And then it said, but then July 4th was also the hottest. And this is a big deal if you're a scientist, because to have a day that you've never recorded a heat that hot. Now, the thing I'm saying about it, though, also is we're incredibly lucky. I mean, we just had the 2 hottest days on the planet Earth, and it didn't even seem that hot. It was beautiful. And those beautiful things mean that this is a very beautiful community, that you don't know who's going to want to come and control you and control your resources. All that is true. It is important to have. See, I'm not saying you can say exactly what climate change is, but the Earth is the house with termites, and we have to figure out what to do about the termites. That's all that I'm saying. So I'm not trying to say it's a bad plan. I'm trying to say we're in a bad situation where we have to be able to make fast moves because we've never been this hot before. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Rosemary. Appreciate that.
Katie Rigg.
Hey, Katie, how you doing?
How are you?
Good.
I have
Sure you can. And while you're there, you go ahead, while you're handing that out, I should say that, well, just let you know that Katie already sent me something, sent it actually to all the town board from the Color of Penfield Greens feedback for the Town of Penfield's draft comprehensive plan. And we have, it's about 10 pages long, but we are going to take a look at this, absolutely, so for the record, so I'll make sure that gets into the record, but we all have this, so thank you, Katie, for that. I know you had additional things to speak on.
I do, yes. Thank you. And that is the work of more than a dozen people in Color Penfield Green, really, looking for the best interest of the town.
Thank you.
So my name is Katie Rigg. I live at 23 Dundas Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about the draft comprehensive plan, and thank you to the committee. There is so much in there to be proud of. The whole section on sustainability, safe streets, and the Tree City USA programs, growing housing in mixed-use areas, working with the county and the state to implement their climate action plans. And there's more. I could go on. I did. We did go on in that 10-page document.
You did.
However, like other speakers before me, I find it astonishing that in a 161-page document, there is no mention of climate change. Sustainability has always been an important goal through history. I grew up hearing, turn off the lights, and we don't want to heat the outdoors. I'm sure some of you all heard that as well.
We still say that.
That's right. Some of us say it now.
That's right. Sorry.
Waste was a terrible thing in my home. But this was a general principle and about saving money. I didn't know about climate change then. I do now, and so does our community. In 2021, Yale did a survey to find out how people felt about global warming and published the findings by county. I've given you the results from Monroe and Wayne counties to try to reflect the likely attitudes of those here in Penfield. 75% of Monroe County residents, 64% of Wayne County residents believe that global warming is happening. Only 13% and 17% say it is not. 69% are worried about global warming here in Monroe, 60% in Wayne County. 75% in Monroe, 69% in Wayne believe that global warming will hurt future generations to a great or moderate amount. Only 16% and 22% think it will be little or not at all. 61%, and this is kind of key, 61% believe local officials should do more to address global warming, and a very small percentage think they should do less. We should be writing our town's comprehensive plan, its vision for the future, to reflect the concerns of the people who actually live in our community. The scope of this document covers the period of time we have to reduce emissions to head off the worst possible future impacts. This future will still be incredibly challenging. Increased frequency and intensity of heat waves, droughts, flooding, storms, and wildfires. This brings me back to the problem of using sustainability interchangeably for addressing climate change. While we can save money by transitioning to green energy and using less of it, there is only true urgency when we take into account climate change. It needs to be in that document. In 2035, when we reflect back on this comprehensive plan, if there are only 2 mentions of climate, not climate change, but just the words climate, and those only in reference to state programs, we will look naive at best. Or we can be the town of planned progress, as we say we are. Oh, sorry. We say, be the town of planned progress we say we are, look at the data, know we have the community support, and do everything we possibly can to head off and proactively adapt to the impacts of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie.
Katie,
I'm sorry.
would you like to give that?
Thank
you. Yeah, no problem. Linda Teglish.
Hi, Linda. How you doing?
Good evening, everyone. Linda Teglash. I live at 3 Parham Drive in Penfield. Excellent. Thank you for that. I did submit what I have here to you earlier, but it was just maybe an hour before the meeting. It's in your email,
Okay,
Amy.
thank you.
I have a lot here, and I'm not going to go over it all because I did submit it, but I'll just provide some highlights.
Sure.
I think some overall suggestions. We didn't address anything about a town center this time. I think that's something I've heard people talk about for years in groups. We have Fairport, we have Pittsford, we have Webster. We don't have a town center. I'd like to see something about it addressed. I'd also like to see how our town legal boards and committees, how they are engaged with this whole process. Were they involved with the planning process? Did they give input? Daniel mentioned that his committee, there wasn't any input to it. I would like to see not only how did they provide input, but what authority will they have to make sure that we're following the plan? How will they be asked to follow the plan? I think that we should have an update every 2 to 3 years. I think also 10 years is a long time now to go without some type of update, not to review it. Now we're talking about 12 years. We're going to see significant change in the next 12 years, significant change, whether it's climate, whether it's growth. We're talking about climate change. The Finger Lakes region, the Rochester area, is going to be recognized as a place that is going to be a good place to live when climate change starts hitting harder and harder year after year. So I think those things we have to address. In 2010, no one had any idea that a pandemic was going to shut down, totally reverse our need for office space. In our 2010 plan, we talked about the need to increase office space. We don't need that anymore because things have changed due to a pandemic. We don't know what we don't know, and I think to wait 12 years to not just take another review of it is just too long. I think we should say, in 5 years, we're going to just take another look at it and see what do we need to adapt. So the plan includes 9 policy categories. Like many have said, I think to undertake this effort, to volunteer the time that everyone did is commendable, and I appreciate it. I also want to suggest a few additional policies to be considered. Climate action plan. It's not climate change. We're going to face a climate crisis. We can't control the world. We can't control New York State, but we can address what we need to do to be ready. What can we do to help reduce the impact that everyone is having on this? Historic preservation. I'd love to see a policy or a focus on historic preservation. With the neglect of the Clark House and barn, we should ensure a plan exists for focusing on preserving and maintaining our landmarks. This may involve regulations for restoration, adaptive reuse, and protection of cultural heritage. I'd like to see a technology and infrastructure policy, digital infrastructure, energy efficiency. What is going to be our demand for Wi-Fi? Can we have Wi-Fi in public places? In both plans, we talked about our aging population. I think we should have a policy on senior services. What are we going to do for our seniors? What are we going to do when, I'll take myself, for example, my kids move out, I don't need the big house, can I stay in Penfield? What services are going to be provided? What are the demographics and trends? What's the needs assessment? Goals and objectives, strategies, age-friendly infrastructure. Let's have a policy to take a look at all those things if we want to keep our seniors, as they age, as we all age, in this area. If we don't, I think we need this next one regardless, but if we don't have a climate action piece of the plan, I think we need a resilience and emergency planning. I think we need to prepare the town for potential natural disasters, climate change impacts, and other emergencies. I think we need to know that we can develop strategies for disaster response, risk reduction, and long-term resilience. Additions to existing policies within the plan. I'm going to go over these real quick. Community character and design. I think there should be more explicit emphasis on promoting diversity and inclusion in all aspects of community design and development. This could include considerations for more affordable housing, accessible infrastructure, and inclusive public spaces, environmental sustainability, stakeholder engagement. On the agricultural policy, I'd like to see something about farmland preservation to include specific policies and strategies for preserving farmland to ensure its availability. Farm succession planning. We mention in the plan that the potential impacts of farmers' retirement plans and succession, but we could delve deeper into addressing the issues. Maybe we can have policy or initiatives supporting farm succession planning, such as facilitating intergenerational transfers or providing resources and support for new farmers. In addition, if that business, if that cultural heritage is important to us, I think we should look at soil health and conservation. I think we should work with other municipalities to see what more we can do when we hit the droughts. We're going to have more droughts. What can we do to really support our farmers? And then collaborate with the Rochester City School District, Cornell Cooperative Extension, local farmers on creating education internship program. So there's a lot more to it. I don't want to take up my time. I appreciate it. Thank you for this time. Amy, you do have it, and you can share with everybody else. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Donna Spinella.
Hi, my name's Donna Spinella. I live at 39 Scarborough Park. I've been a member of the Comprehensive Planning Committee since its inception in September of 2018. It was the 18-month commitment that's approaching 5 years, kind of like Gilligan's Island, but without the palm trees. And as I imagine the town staff will be able to attest, I have been deeply committed to this project throughout its run, and I want it to be a plan that we can all be proud of. And I will email all of you my comments. So I'm going to offer comments in 3 areas. First, the process itself. Secondly, what I call comprehensiveness and planniness of the plan. And third, some specific subsections that I feel would benefit from modifications. First, the process. A different process going forward, not just for comprehensive plan, but for all such projects, will improve participation, timeliness, and the end product. I believe there should have been an independent consultant as a leader of this project with the town staff as our experts. Town staff, they all have their own jobs, and an independent leader brings in some fresh thinking and doesn't feel maybe some of the constraints that our staff would feel. There were huge time gaps in this project that largely could have been avoided. The first of which was 15 months in length, the second of which was 14 months in length. The first one coincided with the beginning of the pandemic, but we were not offered the option to work online on our project during the pandemic. The project was also delayed when the town board, not the current town board, required our committee to do a rather time-consuming batch of tasks outside of the committee's charge regarding very specific zoning requirements. So that slowed us down. The format of the document was changed in the process of our working on it. So drafts that we were working on and reviewing as we went toward the pandemic were not apples to apples coming out of the pandemic for us to sort of compare and contrast. So that slowed things down a bit too. The selection process of members of the committee was not exactly, I would say, according to protocol. A protocol that would ordinarily select people who really were gung-ho and really wanted to be on the committee. There was a bit of sort of, let's say, so-and-so is my neighbor, he said I should be on the committee going on. But all of these things combined to a sort of a fall-off in attendance at committee meetings. The last one, if any of you saw it, there were just 2 of us out of the 14 people who started, but it whittled down over time pretty substantially, and often there was kind of sparse participation from a number of the people at the meeting because I'm not sure how engaged people were, partly because of the sporadic nature of some of the meetings and partly because, you know, they might not have been as gung-ho right from the start. So my second big item, the kind of comprehensiveness and what I call planniness. So comprehensive is not the same as holistic or integrated, and a plan is not the same as an inventory. So the comprehensive plan is definitely pretty comprehensive. It has a lot of stuff in it. But to me, one of the things I feel it lacks is the sort of integrated nature and the forward direction that you expect in a plan. A plan guides you forward, like a game plan or a plan of attack. A plan drives you to a larger goal or vision. You can only have such a plan if all the pieces are present that knit together the separate elements, and if you have then something that provides that momentum to move them toward the future. The one example that I would like to give of the missing piece or a missing piece that does both of those things, that sort of knits things together and that provides momentum, is something that has been brought up a lot tonight: climate change. No mention of climate change in the plan. As mentioned, the existential threat of our era. But here's the approach I'm taking to it. If you don't factor in climate change, then you haven't factored in the fiscal consequences as well as the intangible costs of climate change. It'll cost you more to air condition this building. There'll be more cleanup required from increasingly severe weather events. Insect species and plant diseases that previously were never worrisome in our area but that are moving in are going to damage vegetation from neighborhood trees to our farmers' cash crops. And if you don't factor in climate change, you haven't factored in the contingency planning, the sort of broad contingency planning that you need to do on the town level because of things like added stress on the power grid. And this list could go on and on and on. I'll stop there. In terms of some specific subsections that I think could benefit from some modifications, the introduction mentions lessons learned from the pandemic, but there was no list that I found of what those lessons learned actually were. And I think I pointed to one of them when I said that our committee did not have the option to work on our project online during the pandemic. So I think what we need to incorporate, not just into how the town should operate, but it should be integrated into the whole plan, that same sort of thread idea that moves things forward. Is greater organizational agility, better and more robust use of technology, more push communication rather than pull communication, and flexible, comprehensive contingency planning. Basically, a general sort of overall greater resiliency. And again, I feel like these are the threads that should really pervade the entire plan. There were no real metrics associated with the plan in terms of measuring what we said we were going to do in 2010 and what we actually sort of accomplished by now. I realize not not everything can be measured quantitatively, but there could have been perhaps more robust qualitative measurements. And I think that we should incorporate a way to do that from this plan forward to the 2035 plan. In terms of the sustainability section of the plan, as mentioned, no mention of climate change nor a stated intent to commit to a climate action plan. There was a well-worn catchphrase of reduce, reuse, recycle listed as a strategy with just 11 lines of copy supporting it. It needs forward thinking. This is a plan that's got to carry us out 12 years. It needs to be more than just, put your soda can in the recycling bin. So we need some more forward-thinking description of what that means, some more meat on those bones. Civic engagement, which is very near and dear to my own heart, was added this year. But there are 5 subsections, but only three to me actually seem to fit. There's a subsection on fiscal responsibility and stewardship of natural resources, which have, I think, much better real estate available in other categories of the plan. But what it doesn't mention in civic engagement is one really rather universal and very kind of all-American way that civic engagement is measured, and that is by voting standards. Not by party, by who's voting for whom, but what percentage of eligible voters in your town come out in school board elections, in local town elections, in state elections, in federal elections. That's a pretty kind of common standard across towns, and a great way to say, hey, in Penfield, we're on top of things. There also, I think, should be 2 examples within the civic engagement section of the plan. Examples of organizations that actually model civic engagement. One, I think, should be an organization with long-standing, ongoing activity in the community, something like Rotary, that's been around for decades, always does great work. I think the second type of group should be a different type of group, a grassroots organization, a goal-specific kind of endeavor that no formal organization was associated with, but it was citizens coming together to solve a problem. And I cannot think of a better example of that than the Save Shadow Pines group that sprung up to educate the population about what was going on, to fight over a 2-year span, to keep that top of mind for people in this town and for the town board and town supervisor at the time, and then to really draw people out to go to that record-breaking referendum that we had. And I can tell you that we had people of every political stripe in that, from every imaginable background, and everyone put anything personal aside for the goal of doing something great for this community. So I think in the civic engagement plan, 2 examples, something like Rotary, something like the Save Shadow Pines group. Agriculture. As was mentioned early, the committee felt it was really important to pull agriculture out and let it have its own section, and I see my friend Dave Woodward sitting in the back there. I would actually like to ask the staff and the board, did any of you guys share the agriculture section with people from our local farm community? Did you reach out to them? No? Okay. All right, well, that would be one thing that I think would probably help that section of the plan before we finalize it, see how they feel about what we've said on their behalf. I'd also like to point out just a few of the more forward-thinking ideas that we did discuss with respect to the agriculture section of the plan that were not included in this draft. One was the exploration of alternative crops, an example being hemp, not marijuana, but hemp, which currently Cornell University has a $10 million research grant for, that is, and they're looking for farmers to help them with their research. I think we should collaboratively market vulnerable land, and by vulnerable, I mean vulnerable to development or to farmers who are aging out and no longer feel that they can keep the land. Collaboratively market vulnerable land throughout this whole Finger Lakes agricultural region to groups in drought-stricken areas in other parts of the country. We would require collaboration with ag and markets, potentially, with other counties, and so on and so forth, but a reach out so that we could preserve our agricultural land here where we are less prone to some of the wild swings that are affecting other areas in the country. And I think we should work with the Rochester City School District, Cornell Cooperative Extension, and local farmers, as my friend Linda also mentioned, on creating a kind of a combined educational and internship program for city kids to get them interested, to educate them about farming, to educate them about agriculture and food production, and to give them little summer jobs on the farms that are combined with programs that teach them all about what they're doing at those times. The Shadow Pines sections, there are 3 sections that reference Shadow Pines, but I believe that other people will address Shadow Pines issues, so I won't say anything. The last section I'd like to mention is mixed-use developments. I think in some ways they're being held out in this plan as kind of a panacea for solving a lot of the housing problems in Penfield. They don't necessarily address the issue of affordable housing. And in some ways, unless they meet what I call sort of the holy trinity of mixed-use developments, which is live, work, and play in the same environment, unless they really, honestly work in all those 3 components, they're just another bunch of apartment buildings. And they also have to have, offer access to other members of the community who can go in and share and engage and be parts of the broader Penfield community together. The other piece that another person spoke about here, transportation. The more and more we build mixed-use developments, the more urgent it is that we get bus transportation in this town. This is going to be something that is going to become more and more evident in terms of the increased traffic as we populate all of these apartments with people. And by having the public transportation, we reduce the traffic impact on our roads, we reduce the carbon footprint that these developments produce, and I think we make our community more accessible to a lot of people who might not otherwise be able to live here. So in closing, I want to thank the town staff. I know I sound like I've been say nothing but complaining, but I'd be complaining about myself because I've been working on this thing for 4.5 years. We've all worked very hard. There's always room for improvement no matter how hard we all work. I certainly recognize that myself. So I want to thank the town staff, including the former town staff, with a special shout out to Jim Costello, if you're out there listening. And I want to thank my fellow committee members, especially those who stuck it out for as long as they could. This was, I think, a tremendous learning experience for those of us on the committee, and I think it's been a tremendous learning experience for us as a town. I'm very glad we're having this opportunity tonight to discuss this publicly. I hope this won't be the end of our discussions. And here's to moving ahead together.
Thank you. Thank you, Donna.
I'll email you this.
Thank you.
Jeff Burns.
Hello, Jeff. How you doing? Good, how are you?
Everybody.
Nice to see you. I bet I know where you live.
I'm Jeff Burns. I live at 39 Scarborough Park. So first thing I'd say is thank everyone who participated in creating this plan. I know a lot of time was spent on it. I know that very well because my wife worked so hard on her part of it. And she told me some of the things in terms of the meeting. I know that there was a great deal of effort applied to this. And a comprehensive plan is kind of like a business plan where you look at the strengths and weaknesses of a place or an organization and the threats and opportunities and the progress that you're making toward your objectives. But most importantly, I think it should have a vision. And there are some elements within the plan where I think there could be a bit more vision. I think several people have mentioned various elements. I agree with Katie and others who have said that there have been, it's really quite an omission not to mention the threat of climate change and what Dan had said, especially not to have an action plan. I think we really need to have that in the plan. And as Donna was saying, I think one thing is that we're a town of planned progress, and that we should be encouraging and celebrating civic engagement, and that the section about Shadow Pines, I believe, should include some mention of save Shadow Pines and encourage positive civic engagement like that. From my participation in that, I'm certain that Shadow Pines would not have been saved as open space without the efforts of concerned citizens, including those in our committee. And then I agree with Bob Peterson as far as designating Shadow Pines as a park to ensure its protection, and I think that should be in the plan, and I believe that that's the direction that the town has been moving, but it hasn't been stated explicitly, and it's missing from the plan. Per Bob's comments about the quarry, one thing that I think needs to be mentioned as well is that there is a bond concerning the reclamation of the land that the quarry is on, but that bond is grossly insufficient for what may need to be done there. My recollection is the bond used to be, I don't know, like a couple of $100,000, and now over the last few years, it's actually been reduced, and it's something under $100,000, I believe. But that should be looked at very carefully. I think of an asphalt plant there and what may be leaching into the ground, and as good a job as they may be doing there, I'm certain that there would be some spillage and stuff. What will it cost to clean that up, and who's going to be paying for it? And a small bond is not going to do it. But the primary thing I wanted to comment upon was an area dear to my heart, and it's mentioned in the sustainability section about the need to preserve open space. And this is one of the action steps that we can do that will also address some of the way of acting concerning climate change as well. So in the sustainability section, it says that one of the objectives is to preserve open space, farmland, natural beauty, and critical environmental areas. But I don't think that the recommendations in the plan go far enough. The recommendation is that the town should consider implementing smart growth principles through future amendments in zoning, code, and development review applications. I think this is too vague and not specific, and that there are very specific things we could do in terms of preserving open space. One would be to re-implement what has been done in the past, that there had been a bond issue back in the late 90s, early 2000s for $10 million that was intended to be used for purchasing development rights and purchasing land outright. My conversations with former town supervisor Channing Philbrick were that was intended to be an ongoing program, that it wasn't intended to be done just once, but it was only done once, and then it languished and it never occurred again. So what I would like to see in the plan is that we reestablish a plan for purchasing land and/or development rights in town to help preserve our agricultural heritage, but also that it will help in terms of addressing in our own way what we can do on some level toward climate change is to preserve some of the land in our town before it's developed. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Mel Callan.
Hello, Mel. Good evening. And I have some specific comments and
address, Mel?
Oh, yes. Mel Callan. I live at 1410 Harris Road.
Thank you.
And I appreciate this opportunity to speak tonight. Before I get into my structured comments, I want to make some comments about previous speakers and what they mentioned, and specifically Bob and Don and some others. One thing about the affordable housing in the multiple use district, I know that I attended one of the meetings that the developer was here, and I specifically sat at that table and asked him, what portion of the housing units are going to be for affordable housing? And he got flustered and said, well, we don't know that yet. And for a developer to have a plan about housing, you would think at that point in time when he was making a presentation to the town, he would definitely know what portion of the housing that he was recommending to be affordable housing. And as we know, to my knowledge, there is no recommendation for affordable housing in that specific development. Bob and others have mentioned some zoning ordinance for Shadow Pines, designating it as a park. That would be wonderful, and I hope that at some point in the near future, you as leaders in the town could come back with a definitive answer about how what could happen to that in the future. I know when Bob asked that question, there was some question mark, and I get it, you don't have answers to everything, but if you could perhaps find that out and come back to us, especially after the bond is paid for. It's very important to this community as to what happens to not only the lake down there, Shadow Pines in general, so that would be helpful. I know a number of people have talked about having a climate action plan. I'll just reinforce that. That would be very important to our community. Another issue is farmland preservation. Given that I live on the east side of town near a lot of farms, and some of my friends are farmers, to call for specific recommendations and a timeline for those recommendations with specific input from our local farmers, that would be very helpful. And I know there have been opportunities on the town website for comments on the plan itself, but I'm wondering if this is going to be the only in-person opportunity to review the latest rendition, which is 72 pages plus another 74 in appendices. I am sure you want to get this finalized and implemented. I get it. It's been hanging out there for a number of years, and you want it done as soon as possible. But for a document that will guide this town until 2035, it would be a terrific public service to once again have another public hearing for the next draft of the document with the suggestions that you have all heard tonight before it is voted on by the town board. I would like to share my comments about Shadow Pines specifically and the relevance for the comprehensive plan, as I do believe in a historical perspective from those who are on the ground level, no pun intended, is really important. And I know you are all familiar with some of this, but some folks in the town are not as familiar with the history of Shadow Pines and how it came to be. And this historical perspective includes the relevance of Shadow Pines, which includes over 200 acres of a beautiful haven for wildlife, plants, trees, and ecological treasures, which is appreciated by many, many residents here in Penfield. Our Save the Shadow Pines Committee, SSP, was formed in 2016 when there was a proposal for the development of at least 250 homes on the property. The town heard much opposition to the development, and some were in favor of it. Some of the residents were in favor of it. The town established a moratorium committee to prevent any plans for development so they could hear from the public, and we greatly appreciated that effort. The moratorium committee actually agreed with Save Shadow Pines group, and that development was not an acceptable outcome. There was a push to have a town referendum so residents could express their position on the future of Shadow Pines. Our group harnessed the support of many folks in town who did not want the jewel in Penfield to be developed. We had public meetings to inform residents. We ran out of the lawn signs we ordered to publicize the date to vote on the referendum. We distributed 4,000 pieces of literature. We had a social media campaign, and we even stood with signs on Penfield Road to remind people to vote on the referendum. Our efforts indicated that a small group of Penfield residents were not the only ones that did not want to see Shadow Pines developed. Over 7,000 people came out to vote on a wintry day in February of 2018. The result was overwhelming to save Shadow Pines from a development by 4-1. In my family's 35 years in Penfield, I cannot remember the last referendum that would have garnered the long lines of voting for a large acreage, especially on a wintry day. And yet, the comprehensive plan makes no mention of the Save the Shadow Pines effort. I will read the bronze plaque that was presented by the town during a ceremony at the entrance of Shadow Pines. And I think the overwhelming support for saving Shadow Pines does deserve to be included in the comprehensive plan. I will also submit the changes to the comprehensive plan that reflect corrections to the document, which are really important corrections to have, both on page 62 and page 16 of Appendix A. So this is what you will see at Shadow Pines. The beauty that surrounds you in roughly 220 acres of open space at Shadow Pines survives in large part due to efforts of a small group of Penfield residents, the Save the Shadow Pines group, who worked continuously on this endeavor for 2 years, beginning in 2016. In February 2018, the town held a referendum with record-setting turnout that overwhelmingly passed in favor of the purchase of this land for public's enjoyment. One group's efforts to protect this land expanded to a collaboration with the town to ensure that Shadow Pines remains a treasured site for both recreation and sanctuary. We share this information in the hope of inspiring other grassroots organizations to coalesce around issues that energize, engage, and unite citizens in achieving community goals with broad and lasting benefits. And it's dated September 24th, 2022. So I will submit the some extra documents to Amy, and I appreciate you having this hearing tonight, and I do hope that there will be future hearings about this. I truly understand the urgency to get this thing done, but we want it done right, especially if it's going to last us 12 years. And you heard a lot of comments tonight, a lot of suggestions for changes in the document, so perhaps a reiteration of that document so that we can come back and have more suggestions for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel.
Tiffany Rice.
Okay, great, thanks, Mel. Did you drop something, Mel? Hello.
Hi, good evening, Tiffany.
How is everybody tonight?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, hanging in there.
Your address?
Yes, my name is Tiffany Rice. My address is 1237 Bay Road.
Thank you.
And I brought something to read to you. Okay. And I'll be quick, I promise. I'd like to express gratitude to everyone involved in creating this comprehensive plan. As someone with experience in local government, I understand the time and dedication required for such a significant project. Thank you to the staff, town board, committee steering members, and anyone else involved. I'm a big fan of the idea that if you see a problem, you should express your frustration but offer solutions. I'm also a big fan of simple, clear communications, and I found it very difficult to understand the direction the town intends to take over the next 10 years, 13, due to the structure of the comprehensive plan. As a lover of public policy, I have 3 suggestions for improvement. 1, instead of generic subsection titles like economic development, natural resources, low-density residential, and medium-density residential, most people don't know what that is, I propose adopting a more area-specific approach by breaking down the plan to focus on areas such as Panorama Plaza, Four Corners, North Crossroad districts at Shadow Pines, among others, it becomes easier for community members, committee members, and other stakeholders to grasp the direction of Penfield's growth. This approach will also help businesses, nonprofits, developers, and governmental agencies align their offerings with the vision for each specific community segment. Number 2, metrics. I'm a big fan. The plan should include metrics to evaluate the progress based on the goals. Oops, am I too loud?
No.
Based on the goals, I can't hear myself, it's echoing weird. Based on the goals set in the 2010 plan. What have we accomplished in the last 13 years? I'm having a hard time trying to figure that out. It's crucial to clearly state our goals and how we will implement them for the future in this new plan. The section on this needs improvement. Each action item should include specific tasks, time frames, responsible entities for the action item, community partners or possible community partners, and completion dates. I understand that not all of this is possible, but we should try. At this level of detail, though, it will provide a more precise roadmap for our future goals and plans. Metrics are essential for maintaining focus and ensuring Penfield continues to thrive. I've reviewed comprehensive plans from other towns, such as South Windsor, Connecticut, Ocean View, Delaware, and Tama, Wisconsin. I'd be happy to share these examples as templates for incorporating metrics and structure. If other communities have better plans that can benefit Penfield, we should definitely utilize those resources. 3, I encourage the town to collaborate more with other municipalities, state agencies, and nonprofits. By leveraging the experiences and successes of other towns, we can avoid reinventing the wheel and expedite the realization of our vision for Penfield. This collaboration also expands our knowledge of potential grant opportunities, which are not adequately discussed in the current plan. Lastly, I want to mention that there are awards given each year that focus on comprehensive plans. This did not stop due to the pandemic. These awards have minimum criteria, including innovation, quality, implementation strategy, measurable results, involvement of elected officials, transferability to other communities, public engagement, collaboration, long-term sustainability, and promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. Unfortunately, many of these items have not been included or are barely addressed in our plan. We have the potential to do better, to be exceptional, and stand out among other towns in the region. I envision a future Penfield where people are excited to visit and participate in local government. A future where our community's vision is recognized and awarded for its achievements. This all begins with a comprehensive plan and a clear vision for Penfield. Thank you for considering these suggestions. I have other concerns with the plan, including a lack of discussion about missing middle housing, senior services, a lack of anything around climate change, but many people have already spoken to these items tonight. Remember, a clear direction and vision for our future will undoubtedly contribute to a stronger, happier, and healthier Penfield community. Your leadership and commitment are vital to our success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tiffany.
Tiffany, can I have your comments?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to read something from the website.
Oh.
Can I just read a comment that came in as long as you're doing that? And I had something in here from Arthur North at 317 Panorama Trail. He said, why is sanitary sewer capacity mentioned and implied as a concern for moderate income family housing when it clearly is not a concern when granting variance for large apartment complexes like Ellison Heights and the Gardens at Penfield Square? That's for the record. Thank you. Thank you, Amy. I'm sorry.
Sadie Caraway.
Hi. Good evening. My name's Sadie Caraway. I live at 99 Timberbrook Lane. It's in one of the Village Greens, Village Green North. So first, I just wanted to commend the whole committee for their time and effort developing this plan. As I was looking into it, I mean, 5 years is a really long time. And there have definitely been some pretty big hurdles with that, just considering COVID, among other things. That being said, there's a lot of room for sustainability to be recognized and implemented, as so many other people have mentioned tonight. I personally served on the Penfield High School Environmental Club, and we discussed a lot of different things to be implemented among the school district, including energy, food waste audits, doing different plantings, increasing elementary participation in environmental efforts. But this is not limited to school districts, and I really think that this should be expanded to the town as a whole. And these need to be implemented into the comprehensive plan. One of the #1 things that I think would be really beneficial would be a climate action committee and a climate action plan. This is something that has been discussed among various circles, even just with me. And, you know, when I was 14, we were thinking about doing things like this. And it would just be a really great way to show the community where we want to go, how we're going to get there, and just set direct lines rather than just a broad spectrum of what we think we can achieve. It really sets it in stone, and I think that it would be a really great motivator for both community members as well as committee members to actually get these achieved. And I think that the response crafted by the Color Penfield Green team really adequately addresses the necessary and proper additions of sustainability efforts into the comprehensive plan, especially the inclusion of the climate crisis and climate change explicitly being mentioned in that. So I really think that you should be taking these recommendations into consideration and beyond that, and to really implement them into the plan. And I believe that having another hearing on this would be super beneficial to really finalize this document, do it right, and get it into the works. So, thank you.
Sadie, can I ask you a question? You're in high school still?
No, I was at UVM for 1 year, so I'm 1 year into college.
Great. I was going to say you speak very well.
Oh, thank you.
And I expect to see good things from you.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Guan, thank you very much.
Dave Woodward.
Mr. Woodward, how you doing?
All right. Dave Woodward, 1530 Harris Road. First, I'll apologize, Amy. You get nothing in typewritten or even chicken scratch from me, so.
That's okay. I'll just include you there.
So first, like, affordable housing is a good wish list, but if people really realize it's bound to the cost to develop and market rate, and developers aren't going to do anything any different. You know, they get their DSS payment, you know, from some entities, and they're not worried about whether it's $1,000 or $2,000 a month or whatever for their apartment. It's whatever they're going to get paid. So it's a nice wish list. One, it's the plan talks about transportation, but it doesn't mention anything about agricultural transportation, which can be simply as putting double yellow lines down the middle of a road where there's actively turning. It can be putting up signs showing tractors, you know, where there's near farms. Problem with this, a lot of that would be on county roads, possibly state, and not much in regards to town roads, you know, or something like that. And then the other thing is, too, and talking about adding signs with posts, sometimes putting the posts so that they aren't directly opposite each other on both sides of the road, like such as stop signs, because you're taking larger implements down the road and you're trying to get off and, you know, get out of the way for someone. You can be not have room, in essence, for them to pass because you got two sets of stop signs, if you will, opposing each other, or stop ahead signs. So that's, you know, one consideration. In the plan, it has maps showing open space and farmland. What was wrong the last time, and it's still wrong as far as I think there's other properties that are listed as open space, which are indeed farmland. So that's something that could be addressed by the assessor, I'm sure. The plan talks about agri-solar. my concern with that is, I don't know if any of us really know whether the deterioration of solar panels or the breakage of the solar panels would contaminate the ground and then make it an issue for food being produced underneath. So before the town really promotes agri-solar, I would really think they would really want to question whether that's something they want to put in that plan relative to those issues. Mixed use. We talk about that in a specific area. Well, I look at East Penfield as mixed use. You've got your residential, you've got large lots, you've got half-acre lots, you've got at least one entity which is pre-existing non-conforming. My problem is that we're a service-oriented society, and yet there is no place realistically that an entity that has landscaping, lawn mowing, snow plowing, that they can affordably do legally in the town. If you take Grossman's previously, they operated under the guise of being a farm market, but depending on how you really want to look at it as to what they truly produced, at least from seed, if you will, they may have brought in some plants and then grew them in the greenhouse further. So I think that's something this plan really needs to address, is to allow entities, businesses, in some fashion, under maybe a conditional use, to be on some of these larger lots in town, because these people and businesses need a place to go. And I think a lot of you, if you look at people around you, they hire someone to do their lawn mowing or their snow plowing. Well, where are they going to park? Well, the plan says you only got 5% of the town that is in mixed use, commercial, and industrial, and most of that is going to be selling for 6 figures or more per acre, and it's not justifiably affordable for many of these entities, especially on a smaller scale. And the other thing is, if you're looking at leaving the landscape, such as with larger barns, well, what use do they have, once a farm isn't there anymore? Well, they lend to use, maybe somebody that's got a lot of toys, or to some entity which, would have a small business. And I'm not saying you've got to have something that is ridiculously big, if you will, in the eyes of the town. But I think that's one thing that they really need to look at and should be involved in this plan, as far as making it so that it's suggested that that is something that would be allowed under a conditional use, and it's going to have a lot of input, I'm sure, no matter what it's, how it's done. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right, that's all I have that's signed up, but I do have an email that came in earlier today that wanted to be read into the record. So I can do that now,
Yes,
if that's
thank you.
okay? Okay. So this is from Barbara Power at 9 Lost Mountain Trail. After reviewing the draft comprehensive plan for the town of Penfield, I was surprised and disappointed to see no articulated plans for the town's Department of Recreation nor the Penfield Public Library. Both facilities are located within the Penfield Community Center on Baird Road, in a building that is nearly 60 years old and fails to meet demands for growth, public expectations, or current standards for such mechanical functions as lighting. The plan acknowledges that there is a town recreation department and says there is an adequate number of parks. That implication begs the question of whether or not the department has adequate space to house staff maintaining the parks, managing after-school and summer activities for children, or providing programs for seniors in the community, all while overseeing a town-wide service. For the Penfield Public Library, the draft plan mentions that as part of the Monroe County Library System, creating the impression that Monroe County is responsible. That situation is not the case. Penfield residents pay for library services with their taxes. What do they expect from the library? Do they expect books, electronic materials, and services to keep up with changing technologies? Is the space adequate for the future? And more importantly, can the existing space be modified to meet the future needs of Penfield, its children, parents, and seniors? And if not, what is the plan? Contrast the lack of foresight on those two vital services to the amount of space and one can only assume time dedicated to the Shadow Pines site. That site, although important, represents 212 acres out of the 77-plus square miles of total area in the town. The committee should take a better look at community services that impact more residents.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody that would like to speak that didn't sign up? I see Mr. Murphy. He's a first time. Tim Murphy, would you like to come up? I'll get you next, too, Megan. You have a seat anywhere? Thank you, Tim.
Tim Murphy, 48 Corral Drive, and I'm going to go heads down so I can be concise here and get through my notes. So thank you for the opportunity for being here tonight and all the hard work that's gone into updating the comp plan as of May 2023. Everyone has a different opinion and interest in the document, but otherwise we wouldn't have been here tonight if we didn't care. So I have some key points that I'd really like to share, and some of them are redundant, so I'll just go lightly over those. But I did go through the 162 pages, and honestly, it feels more like an inventory rather than a forward-looking plan with specific goals and targets. I don't mean this to be critical, but that's my observation. So there's some particulars there. I was looking for linkages to other towns' master plan. And Deb, this one's close to you and me because we did this together. In 2008, we created a bicycle master plan and spent a lot of time on it. If you remember the conversation, I said I didn't want to waste my time if we're not going to implement it. And that was 15 years ago. There were 4 pages of recommendations, which I brought tonight. I didn't see any of them in the comprehensive master plan. And that's the kind of thing that I just want to bring up. There are plans, good plans that have been done that sit in the shelf, and I don't see the linkages to them. So one of the specific examples just in that is, and people thought this was a really good idea, was some priority routes where we would link destinations, the schools in particular. It calls it out in the plan where we would widen the sidewalks. It's something I know I talked to Mark Valentine many years ago about. Again, it's just a very specific example of things that have been out there that, again, were well received, that got ratified by the board, but I don't see in any of in the comprehensive plan. Another thing, in Appendix A, I found that very interesting, the community profile, especially the population characteristics. Our community is aging very quickly. I think we all know that, we've heard it, but what does that mean? And I came up with just 3 examples. How does the aging population impact the Penfield Volunteer Ambulance Corps, for example? From what I've heard secondhand is, between COVID and the number of, nursing homes that we have, assisted livings, they're overwhelmed by all the transportation needs, let alone just the emergency services. That's something we should be thinking about. Again, we're not going to get any younger, we're only going to get older. What services do the aging community need, and what will we value over the next 10 years? What's going to keep us in the community? I specifically asked about ADUs. I had a long conversation with one of your former colleagues, and I greatly appreciate that it was put into the plan as future consideration, but it was more of an acknowledgement. There was no commitment really to look forward and define what that means and what it could be for the community. But again, that's an example. What it would keep for people like myself and my wife to age in place in this community would be forward-looking things like that. So those are 3 examples. I also was just wondering, there were 11 specific rezoning considerations in the plan, and I'm like, why? I mean, it just seemed out of character. Was the committee asked to do that, and why? Was it in their charter? Again, it just seemed out of character. Isn't that what we have a zoning board for? So I don't expect an answer, but again, it just didn't seem to fit. Are there new zoning categories being considered? I mean, other people have commented about open space, green space, parks, all that. But, to protect our land, I think we should call it out. Are we willing to do that as a community? And you as leadership, do you think that's important? There were 17 maps in the comp plan, but like Bob Peterson had mentioned, I didn't see any with the zoning category. So I'm just assuming that was an oversight. Shadow Pines. Again, other people have said it. I'll just say it for a fact. Are we going to change its zoning and designate it as a park? Jim Frome, my friend, isn't here tonight, so I haven't heard anybody mention pickleball, so I got to touch that base.
No.
But when I searched for pickleball in the existing plan, it came up one time, once. And it was way out of context. And I would think with all the conversation you folks have been involved in the last few months, and what seems like a commitment to do something, that should be in the plan. I mean, that's at our doorstep, right? And there was really no mention of that. And that, again, dovetails with other things, quality of life, services for seniors. So I think that deserves partly a review. When I searched for the word quarry, it only came up 2 times, and both of them were referencing the Manitou Lake Quarry, not the working dolomite quarry. And as others have articulated better than I, there's a clear intention that eventually that will be an asset to our community. I mean, the vision of John Odenbach and the commitments through the plans they filed through the DEC says at some point that will go offline. But again, 2 mentions of quarry in the plan, I mean, I think we should do better than that. In Appendix D, key issues, strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. I love that. And matter of fact, I would add the accessibility to water seems to be a big thing nowadays. I mean, Syracuse and the microprocessor plant, but there was no linkages to those specific things, any of the topics. I mean, that we should take those, and again, those are strengths and weaknesses in these different categories. We should associate them. Something that's come up before, and I didn't see in there, and maybe I missed it, but I know water and drainage and water management and drainage is a big topic for us. But when I worked at Thermo Fisher Scientific, we asked specifically, because it impacted our manufacturers' insurance rates, what are you going to do about the floodplain? And we were assured at one point the Army Corps of Engineers was engaged, and I think we were told it was a 10-year plan, and that was 15 years ago. And while I worked there, we had at least 2 major flooding events. So I don't know what it takes to get in a plan, but I know I talked to Supervisor Cinti at one point about this being included in the, but I think we should address that, again, before it happens, have a plan. Maybe we need to dig in the archives and see where the ball got dropped, but I'm positive this has been a conversation that's been out there for a while. And you only imagine, again, what happens if Panorama Plaza gets flooded out. Another thing that's important that was mentioned, and I just call it a feedback loop, something that allows you folks to communicate back with us about progress. And I've heard different comments. I would say an annual report out would be appropriate, something that just says these are the progress we've made on different fronts. We don't know what all your goals and objectives are, and I think, maybe collectively we could do a better job of sharing and having a conversation around those things. But you can also give yourself a lot of credit by saying these are all the things we've accomplished. So some kind of forum or format that, again, allows you to report out, I think would be a really good thing to do. And then I'm going to say lastly, I watched the Clark Barn Advisory Committee, the last meeting, and let me just say that I think the approach is super. The decision support matrix, the rubrics, I mean, I know it's a tough exercise, but I really liked how we were facilitating it and going forward. And the drone activity showing all of the barn in the current state, I mean, that was pretty darn telling. But there's something that came up at about minute 46 when Tom Combs, the chair of the Historic Preservation Committee, asked Carrie a question, can we get a list of the town's projects? And I believe, and I'm not putting you on the spot, Carrie, but it's just something I've been asking about, and I've shared a template. But the answer was yes. We have a draft. It's not solidified, but a working draft with what all those ballpark numbers might be. Sorry, a little out of context.
Yeah, that was, I'll just address that. I think that was prepared several months ago for presentation to the town board when the town board was considering the DPW project. And so it was as a frame of reference. And also I think as part of the I'm blanking on the funding. I was about to say AARP, and I know that's not the right terminology, but
ARPA?
The ARPA funding. Yes, thank you. I feel like I'm now a member of AARP, so that's maybe why.
Most of us are. You aren't.
But I think it was around the ARPA funding conversation as well as to where funds were going and what was needed. So that was the list I was referring to. So we were going to resurrect that and
So maybe
update the numbers.
Maybe it was a little out of context, but again, it touched the base that I was looking for. And again, I'm a little behind here, and I meant to send all of this in advance. But again, I've got an updated template. You recently passed 5 resolutions to spend over $100,000 to look into the new DPW barn. And I mean, I know, for example, I just had a conversation with Larson Engineering. I know that our solar array, you know, pretty darn soon it's coming up for the buyout option, the fair market value, and I know that's going to be a pretty big ticket item. So there's all kinds of things. We've heard about the town hall, possible expansion, the rec center, you know, the seniors. There's so many good things we could spend our time and money on. But it'd be great just to have some type of view of all of those big ticket items and give us a chance to talk about them. So I'm going to close here. And just say I appreciate all the work. I hope you take this constructively. Again, I think we're all here to try to add to the conversation, not to subtract from it. So, and I'll echo the other sentiment. It would be good to have another round once you've updated the document. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. I saw Megan Myers. Would you like to speak? Sure, come on up.
Hi, Megan Meyer, 61 Henderson Drive, and I'm just amazed at the wealth of wonderful work that not only our town has done and the committee, but also all the creative ideas that have been shared here. And in my work with volunteer groups, I might have a good idea, but if I have 3 or 4 more people with me and we start playing off of one another, we come up with much better ideas. So, you know, I feel that this is a positive step. It is not, you know, saying that this plan is not what what it should be. This is the first step, and this is a wonderful first step, I think. I would like to talk about natural resources, and the thing here is that I'm all about biodiversity, and we not only have global warming or climate issues, but we have 2 crises here. We have lots of species that are going extinct and becoming, you know, we have less of, and that's another thing that we need to be thinking about. And I think the board has already started to do that. They passed resolution on going forward with the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, and the town is doing some things in collaboration with some of its residents. I think that collaborative action is a wonderful idea. I see it with the people in Shadow Pines, and I see it with the Clark House barn. We can only be better with those kinds of things. Within the natural resource section, I just want to say that we definitely should be pursuing, you know, a tree board and preserving trees. Trees are so important it's the natural way of bringing our carbon footprints down. And I think our sustainability section is so heavy on technology. We need to start thinking about some of the natural resources and the natural ways that we can also impact bringing that carbon footprint down. And again, that's going to be by preserving green space, by maybe looking at how our next generation of farmers will be farming the land to improve the soil. Cornell University is training farmers. Genesee Land Trust is also connecting young farmers to retiring farmers, very similar to what is happening in Fishers, New York with Wild Hill Farm, which is a small little CSA say, and Aaron Bullock is the farmer down there. So we can be learning from so many different areas, our not-for-profits, other towns, other farmers that are doing some of these regenerative practices to improve not only how we farm and how we take care of our soil, but also how we take care of our green space. And I know our town has learned a little bit about doing some different mowing practices in some of our meadows, and that all came from a lot of information that some of our Healthy Yards people got from Genesee Land Trust. So I thank you all again, and I do feel that we need to have a little bit more in our comprehensive plan related to some of the natural ways in which we can be sustainable in our town.
Thank you very much, Megan.
Thank you.
And thank you for all your work on the pollinator garden. It looks really, I was just by it the other, it looks like it's doing very well.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And is there anyone else that did not get a chance to speak that still would like to speak at this public hearing? And this public hearing is going to be open until July 19th. At that time, then we'll have a work session, and then we'll be discussing this comp plan, Carrie, unless you have anything else.
I was going to say the written comments, we're requesting written comments between now and July 19th. That's the next work session meeting with the town board. At that point, the town board will discuss potential edits and changes, and then it will come back to the town staff to make those changes. At that time, once a revised plan is prepared, if there's a subsequent review, we would evaluate at that point in time. So I think we want to get written comments on what's currently existing in the draft. Anybody who is watching at home and didn't have a chance to submit, we would ask any additional written comments be provided between now and the 19th so that the town board has every comment related to this draft, and then we'll go forward from here.
And anyone that did not send in or give me their written comments from this evening, if you can get that together and send it to me via email steckloff@penfield.org. You can call me, and I can give you that with spelling if you need it. And I know that Bob Peterson would like to talk a second time.
Bob, do you have something new? Would you like to?
Just really quick, just two things. Two things really quick. I hate to correct my friend Jeff Burns, not really correcting him. Forgive me for being such a detail nut. My first job after college was second lieutenant in an 8-inch artillery unit, and if you made a single-digit error in the elevation of a gun, you had a disaster. So the surety bond or the performance bond on the quarry, a new plan was just submitted in the May or June timeframe, and I've submitted a Freedom of Information request to the DEC to get that. But on the DEC's website, there's a table that shows the surety bond has been placed at $254,000. Now, that's still a pittance compared to what it might cost to clean the quarry out, and I'm not sure if that's what the bond is truly intended to be. Sort of guessing about that.
Okay.
My other suggestion is, why don't we put a sign up at Shadow Pines saying, sort of like the sign at Rothfuss or the linear park, Channing Philbrook Linear Park. Those are nice signs saying there's a park there. We could say Shadow Pines Recreation Area until such time we can put a sign up that says it's a park. Just a suggestion. Okay. So that people would know when they're driving by on Atlantic and Whalen. There's a town recreation site there.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Just a suggestion.
Thank you, Bob.
Nice gold filigree sign.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I want to just take this time too before to thank. I know it was mentioned, Bob. I think Don also mentioned the Comprehensive Steering Committee members that were on this starting in 2018, and I wanted to make sure we recognize them. Daniel Berger, George Flansburgh, Charles Fox, Michael Geschmeyer, Harold Mellers, Roland Osterwinter, Heidi Rasmussen, Matthew Rich, Donna Spinelli, of course, who spoke, and Christopher Whipple. So I want to thank all those that started on the committee, and I know you got down to a few at the very end, but we appreciate all those, the effort. And of course, you know, without, we couldn't have done this without, I know it started off with Jim Costello, but then Carrie Ivers came and took this entire thing over. It was a big production.
Oh, no. Mark Valentine and Doug Sangster did the lion's share of the work from the staff perspective, so I'm not going to steal that that spotlight.
Then I'll take, because Mark was my next thank you to Mark and to Matt Prinzing and Doug Sangster as well, so thank you. And also, I should also mention, there was former supervisors, started under Tony LaFountain, and then Marie Cinti, and also, besides these council members, Paula Metzler, Andy Moore, and Rob Quinn were also on there again, and I mentioned Mr. Costello. So they all contributed. I thank you all for your the development of this plan, and I appreciate all the, I think we all do, the comments, and we don't take these lightly. We will be looking at these and discussing again and again. This is open for comments, emails, calls. If you would like to call the supervisor's office, more than happy to discuss anything with you. So please, till July 19th, I think that's and then we'll look at this again with the staff. Mel, did you have something new?
Just a question. Repeat it, Mel Callan, 1410 Harris Road.
That's okay. We got that.
Just a question about another public hearing. I mean, I think you've been very open about it'll be on the website, and you can contact anybody in the town. I thank the staff for their involvement and their help. But it's hard, like, I'm not going to be able to go, and I think a lot of people won't be able to go through everybody's public comments that are on the website. So it just helps to bring it all together if we can have another public hearing after you finished the next reiteration of it.
Yeah, I think that we were saying that we wanted to wait and to outline the remainder of the process.
Okay.
Until once we've had a chance to review the comments received tonight, any other additional written comments, understand sort of the extent of changes so that we can lay out a potential timeline so that we're not, guessing at it right now.
Sure.
And then having a better process and timeline going forward between now and adoption.
Okay.
We just don't know what that's going to look like just based on the
no
scope of
commitment
changes.
about a time frame for when we have another public hearing, but I think it'd be important to have another public hearing after you finish all the wonderful work that you're going to be doing.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mel. Appreciate everyone. I think I'll take a 5-minute recess here because we have to go before we start our legislative meeting. So I thank you all for coming. If you want to stay, that's more than happy. Have you guys stay. Otherwise, thank you very much and stay tuned. Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, thank you, and now we'll continue with the rest of this agenda, and we're to communications and announcements. And so I'll start with our town clerk, Amy Steckloff.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Okay, the first communication I have is in regards to the Shepherd Home Golf Tournament fundraiser. The Penfield Shepherd Home Hospice and Comfort Care is having their annual golf tournament on Monday, August 28th at Victor Hills. This is one of Shepherd Home's biggest fundraisers of the year. Breakfast and registration start at 8:30 a.m. with a shotgun start at 10. There are sponsorship and advertising packages available. Go to shepherdhome.org to become a sponsor or sign up for the tournament. The cost is $125 for golfers or $40 to attend the dinner at 5 p.m. The golf ticket includes greens fees, cart, lunch at the snack bar, and a steak dinner. Please consider supporting Shepherd Home and showing them our appreciation for the service they have provided. My last communication, there are a few businesses that have employees soliciting door-to-door this summer. It's Renewal by Anderson, Cameron Roofing, and Southwest Advantage that sells educational books. They all have selling permits, and that they know to carry the permits with them and show residents as proof that they are allowed to go door-to-door in the town of Penfield. In addition, there are 2 nonprofit organizations going door-to-door that by state law do not need to apply for peddlers permits. Those organizations are New York Public Interest Research Group, known as NYPIRG, and the New York Adult and Teen Challenge Drug and Alcohol Awareness Campaign. They do have a letter from me stating that the town knows that they're going door-to-door. Everybody has permits that go through the end of August. No other businesses should be going door-to-door in Penfield at this time. Please notify me at 340-8629 or contact the sheriff's office to report those who have not been approved. Please check the town's website regularly for the updated list of solicitors, and remember, you do not need to open your door to anyone if you don't feel comfortable to do so. Please contact me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilperson Ockenden.
Thank you. I do have a few tonight. The first one is a transportation safety reminder to always please drive at or below the speed limit. We're asking our Penfield residents to prioritize traffic safety. We touched on a little bit tonight with Dave Woodward about East Penfield, and that's an area we should look at more with farm equipment on the roadways. But reckless driving endangers everyone on the road, including pedestrians and cyclists. The Transportation Committee works with partner agencies to improve safety, make recommendations, and enforce laws. The town board will review potential enhancements to further improve safety. Remember, it's up to each of us to drive carefully and prioritize safety. Next, clean energy funds for your family. Discover how you can receive financial assistance to transition your home and car to clean energy. Inflation Reduction Act 101, in partnership with Color Penfield Green and Citizens Climate Lobby Rochester, is hosting an informative workshop for homeowners and renters. The government is providing funds to help you fight climate change by purchasing green appliances, heat pumps, electric cars, weatherization projects, and solar panels. Find out if you qualify for this incredible opportunity for your family. The single class is offered 4 times through Penfield Recreation, both in person and virtually. Thursday, July 20th, 1 to 2:30 p.m. by Zoom, and then also Thursday from 7 to 8:30 p.m., a hybrid registration. There's more information available at Penfield Recreation. You can contact them at 340-8655. Don't miss this chance to make a positive impact on the environment. And then lastly, just a reminder of our next date for the brush drop-off. The next one here is July 15th. It's a Saturday from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. At our highway complex, 1607 Jackson Road. This will be for tree limbs, branches, and shrubs. Again, you can visit our website, the town website, penfield.org/disposal for more information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilperson Kohl.
Okay, I have 3 announcements. Join Penfield Trails Committee for a guided hike at Lucian Morn Park, located at 1135 Empire Boulevard on July 8th at 9 a.m. Admission's free, but registration is required, so go to www.penfield.org/hike or by contacting Penfield Recreation at 340-8655. Next, Penfield Summer Concert Series runs in July, featuring the Swimmers on July 11th, Jumbo Shrimp July 18th, John Dady on July 25th. Shows start at 6:30 p.m. at the Penfield Amphitheater and Kiwanis Stage in Veterans Memorial Park. Visit penfield.org events for more information. And finally, on Monday, June 12th, heavy rain caused flooding at Penfield Town Hall, home to the Penfield Community TV offices. PCTV team member Brian Delmeter noticed water pooling and acted quickly to prevent further flooding. Several staff members responded immediately to help, preventing a significant flooding event, and saved thousands of dollars of equipment. The PCTV team worked tirelessly to ensure department operations continued seamlessly during the cleanup process. And there's a picture of them
The
on the
team.
screen of Dave Townsend, Brian Delmeter, Dave Renner, Amy Cruikshank, Wesley Kreibler, and Tyler DeMay, who all participated in the cleanup. Thank you.
Yes. It's looking a lot better down there, too. We're getting there, so thank you, Linda. And I have a couple announcements here. First, I'd like to express my gratitude to the fantastic staff who contributed to our success of our annual Independence Day celebration this past Saturday. This event was a cornerstone of our community, and it wouldn't have been possible without our town staff's hard work and dedication. And I'm truly grateful for those efforts. You'll see some pictures up there, and I'm sure later on you can view the parade if you want on PCTV as well, on the website. I want to give a special shout out to Sabrina Renner and the recreation staff for organizing the unforgettable town parade. I believe, Linda, your last parade as a town council person.
How about you?
Yeah, me as well, and myself, I think as an elected official here in Penfield. And I also want to thank Andrew Erkfitz for spending his birthday with us, and that he made sure that the music and the fireworks were top notch. So I appreciate that. Even with a little bit of a downpour of rain in the middle of the day, it still cleared out and we had a beautiful night. I want to acknowledge the DPW, the parks, the facilities, security, PCTV staff, and especially to Jeff David, our fire marshal, who coordinated along with our other emergency departments, fire department, the Penfield ambulance, the Monroe County sheriffs, all the law enforcement were there. So I want to thank them for their unwavering commitment to making the event a success. So with their efforts, our town's Independence Day celebration was really, truly a great day. So on behalf of the town board, again, thank everyone, and thank you all, the residents. I hope you enjoyed our event and look forward to it again next year. In the town hall now, we have the new Penfield Art Association's exhibit is up for the summer. You can view it from Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30, and there's we refreshed they have new pieces for the local community to enjoy. Among participating are Susan Fredericks Hodes, Sue O'Keefe, Lee Little, and Doris Hooker. So again, come and take a look at it. There were some beautiful works of art, and you'll see a picture of them right there in our beautiful lobby. Next, I wanted to let everyone know that there are free masks. Now, these are the N95 masks, and they're available at the Penfield Town Hall and the Recreational Library. So again, we've heard a lot about there's been a lot of ongoing concerns about air quality, so we were pleased to be able to offer some masks that we, at these locations. Again, where some supplies are limited, but our distribution is on a first come, first served basis. But I assure you that we've received quite a few of these masks from the county. So I think anyone who wants one should be able to have one. So again, anytime, because I think we're going to be seeing more of the smoke, unfortunately, this summer. So you might want to pick up one or two. And then my last announcement is really, sadly, on Saturday, June 24th, Thomas Edward Jones Jr. Of Penfield. He's a lifetime resident of Penfield. He graduated from Penfield High School. Tom Jones passed away. Tom served our country in the U.S. Army from 1960 to 62. He worked for the Monroe County Sheriff's Patrol from 1960 to 1966. He then ran Goodland Hoffman Tire and Automobile business in the late 60s to 1985. He also then went back and worked as a Monroe County Sheriff Deputy Supervisor from 1985 until his retirement in 1999. Most important, though, Tom followed, I think, in his father's footsteps, volunteering for the Penfield Fire Company in 1957. He was the chief from 1971 to 73, and he was appointed as a fire commission to the Fire Commission in 1973. He served the Penfield Fire Company for over 65 years, and I believe after attending the last fire department dinner,
Yeah.
he was, Tom had the most longevity of any of them, right? And I can say
Yeah.
this because our other Councilman Ockenden is our past fire chief.
Yep, he was the longest, at that point, the longest-serving member of the company. Yeah.
He just a wonderful man. He always had a smile on his face. So he will truly be missed. So just wanted to recognize and give a little shout out to his family and to the friends in the community because he was a wonderful man. So with that,
Well said.
yeah. Well, I know it's hard. Thank you. So that concludes my announcements. Next on the agenda is a public participation. I know we heard most people at the public hearings, and I don't see anyone here tonight left in the auditorium. I don't see no call-ins and nothing on email. Or there's 3 ways, again, phone numbers 340-8771. I'm just letting people know in case they still had something to say, or online at www.penfield.org. And again, not seeing any. So I think we'll go right into additions and deletions to our agenda.
I'd like to move that we add Resolution 163 to the agenda.
And 164.
And 164.
Yeah.
And 164. Oh, they were,
Yes.
2 and 3?
I have it, yes. And 164.
Yes. Okay. Do I have a second there?
Okay. I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay. So,
Drawe.
aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Lee is absent.
Is absent.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to move to the approval of minutes. Board, you have before you both the May 10th, 2023 and the June 7th, 2023 minutes. I'd ask them, could we move them together?
I think we can.
Great.
You wanna move it?
All right, I'll make a motion to approve both the May 10th and the June 7th minutes.
And I'll second that.
Great. Thank you. No questions on that? Roll call vote?
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes.
Thank you. Next, we have on the agenda is petitions. As board, anyone received any petitions?
Not.
Seeing none, we're going to go right into resolutions by function to the town clerk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Acceptance of a grant from the Genesee Valley Regional Market Authority, an amendment in the general fund.
So moved.
Second.
The town was awarded a grant through the Genesee Valley Regional Market Authority for banners, planters, and a bronze cast sign promoting Penfield's farming pride to be placed in the 4 corners. Whereas the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to the current income and expenditures, the revenue for local grants and donation, the amount of $9,288 go to the appropriations of park maintenance and $9,288.
Any discussion? I should just mention that the planters are already up in the 4 corners, and the banners went up right before our parade on Saturday. They look fabulous, recognizing some of the businesses, I think. And a bronze sign will be coming shortly to the Shuffleburger Park. So thank you again. That was a nice grant for us to receive. I want to thank the town staff, especially in the direction of Barbara Churto, worked on helping us to get that grant. So we appreciate that. So, okay, roll call vote.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Budget transfers for the general highway, library, and sewer funds.
So moved.
Second.
Transfers are necessary for payment of annual insurance premiums. The town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to current income and expenditures. So be it resolved that the following 2023 budget transfers are approved, and there's funds coming from property taxes, uniforms, postage, and vehicle fuel going into umbrella policy, special multi-policy, unallocated insurance, and more unallocated insurance.
Great. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization or authorize the town supervisor to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Penfield Central School District for AV services.
So moved.
Second.
This is a very long resolution. The Penfield Center School District has requested an audio-video services from the Town of Penfield Department of Cable TV to assist in the District Board of Education meetings and district video productions. The town understands the school district's annual video production coverage needs 18 Board of Education meetings, 1 Meet the Candidates Night, and 1 other meeting award ceremony. There's additional support for live transmission and post-production editing, uploading, managing video, providing general maintenance, post-production, captioning for all the productions. The district is financially responsible for the purchasing and repair of the equipment. It's a very long resolution, but to make it short, it's the agreement between the Town of Penfield and the school district for our cable TV people to produce and edit and take care of their the different productions that the school district needs. And anybody wants to read the long resolution contract is you can look it up on the town website.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorize the supervisor to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County for the purchase of fuel.
So moved.
Second.
The Monroe County Sheriff's Office would like to continue obtaining fuel at the town DPW facility. The town will be reimbursed monthly for the fuel along with the administrative fee per the municipal accepted agreement. The town supervisor is hereby authorized to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County for the term September 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2024, with the option to renew for the additional term up to 3 one-year period upon review and approved by the town attorney.
Okay.
Yes.
So we've been doing this
And
quite
the contract is attached to this resolution.
Very good. We've been doing this for quite a number of
yes.
years. I
Yeah.
don't even know how long, but any discussion? No? Roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization to continue membership in Monroe County's Consolidated Plan Consortium.
So moved.
Second.
Monroe County must complete the urban county qualifications process for continued participation in the Federal Community Development Block Grant Home Investment Partnership and Emergency Solution Grants programs. Part of the process is including the renewal of the cooperation agreement between the town and the county. The cooperation agreement originated in 2005 and contains automatic renewal provision. The agreement with Monroe County will be automatically renewed for the term October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2026 upon review and approval by the town attorney, and it is attached to this resolution.
Thank you. And we received a block grant for, this year, we're going to be spending this to do some sidewalks up in the Willow Pond neighborhood. So it's always good. We've been very fortunate to be receiving this every year that we've had it, so we appreciate that. So any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Issuing a special use permit and preliminary final site plan approval to allow the construction of a 3,400 square foot plus or minus new building to house a Pets at Peace facility located at 1401 Empire Boulevard, located in the LaSalle's Landing Development Zoning District.
So moved.
Second.
The town board had a public hearing at the town hall on June 7th at 6:30 to consider this application and hear all persons interested in the matter. Town's reviewed the applicant's waterfront assessment form and has determined the application to be consistent with LWRP. Resolved that the applicant's request for a special use permit and preliminary final site plan to allow the construction of a Pets at Peace facility at 1401 Empire Boulevard is hereby granted, subject to several conditions.
Yes, thank you. So we had a public hearing on that again, and so on June 7th, so I think it's a very good use for it down there.
Yes.
So any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. support for the Town of Penfield to pursue funding through the New York State Consolidated Funding Application.
So moved.
Second.
The New York State Consolidated Funding Application 2023 round is currently open and grant programs have been announced. The Town of Penfield has identified potential grant applications that align with the town goals and priorities. The Town of Penfield Town Board is aware of the local match requirements associated with the potential grant opportunities and has the funds available to make cash matches should the grants be awarded. Therefore, be it resolved, the Town Board supports the pursuit of eligible funding opportunities through the 2023 New York State SCFA and instructs staff to submit applications within the guidance provided in the program.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization to dispose of surplus equipment.
So moved.
Second.
The cable television coordinator has determined that equipment due to age and non-working condition hold no value. There's a long list of things. It is the best interest of the town to dispose of the surplus items for electronic recycling purposes. Therefore, be it resolved that the Penfield Town Board hereby approves the disposal of the surplus property for electronic recycling. The Town Board authorizes the cable television coordinator to take the necessary steps to arrange for the disposal of the surplus property to environmentally responsible manner. The proceeds, if any, from the recycling of the disposed items shall be directed to the town's general fund. The copy of this resolution will be provided to the cable television coordinator for their records and future reference.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization to maintain properties and assess the charges to the 2024 property tax bills.
So moved.
Second.
The town board has adopted a resolution in 2015 entitled "A Local Law to Provide for the Codification of Local Laws, Ordinances, Certain Resolutions of the Town of Penfield into a Municipal Code to be designated the Code of the Town of Penfield." The purpose of the code, among other things, is to provide for safety, health, protection, and general welfare of the persons and property in the Town of Penfield by requiring the maintenance of all such properties within the town. Whereas the property owners at 1600 Penfield Road, 39 Lone Oak Circle, and 129 Beacons Hill Drive have failed to maintain the subject properties in accordance with the applicable code requirements, which is resulting in concern for safety, health, protection, general welfare of the surrounding persons and properties. The town staff has continually requested the maintenance of the subject properties by the owners, therefore with no result. So therefore be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Penfield hereby authorizes the Building and Code Compliance Inspector to have the properties appropriately maintained. Be it further resolved that the Town Board further authorizes the cost of the maintenance and any necessary subsequent maintenance during 2023 season also charged to the 2024 property tax bill for those subject properties.
Sorry, sad to say we have to do this sometimes, but it keeps our town looking healthy and beautiful, so it's needed. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization for abandonment of easement in Panorama Estates Section 1-C Annex.
So moved.
Second.
The developer of the Panorama Estates proposed a 12-lot subdivision on Panorama Trail to be known as Panorama Estates Section 1-C Annex. Whereas to accomplish the subdivision of the 30-foot wide easement between lots 39 and 40 for the vehicular access to lot 40 was necessary. Whereas the subsequent Panorama Estate Section subdivision plat being recorded at Monroe County Clerk's Office, a previous owner purchased and acquired lots 39, 40, 41 of the Panorama Estates 1C Annex. Said previous owners re-subdivided the 3 lots into one known as Lot R39, as shown on this map that is not attached to this, but we can get a hold of it. The owner of the Lot 39, known as 63 Canyon Trail, wishes to abandon the easement as it's no longer needed since the properties have been re-subdivided, and the easement prevents anything additional being built on the existing home. Town staff and the town board are supportive of the applicant's proposal to abandon the easement. Be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the abandonment of the 30-foot wide easement as shown on the map entitled Panorama Estates, dated August 12, 1959, and the map of re-subdivision of lots number 39, 40, 41 at Panorama Estates, prepared by Lewis E. Kohl and dated February 9, 1971.
Is Lewis?
No relation.
E. Kohl is no relation?
No, I've met him though before. Yes.
Interesting. Oh, okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization to settle WF 5 Mile Line LLC tax certiorari proceedings.
So moved.
Second.
WF 5 Mile Line WF 5 Mile Line LLC. Heretofore commence proceedings against the assessor of the board and the Board of Assessment Review and other respondents for the review of assessment for the year 2022 for the premises located at 2006 5 Mile Line Road. Negotiations have been between the attorney and the town attorneys for the petitioner in an attempt to settle and compromise the petitioner's claim. After much negotiations, tentative agreement has been reached between all the parties on the term of the proposed settlement, subject to the approval of the town board and to the approval of the Supreme Court of the State of New York, which terms of settlement are set forth in the stipulations on file with the Office of the Town Assessor. Upon due consideration of all the facts and circumstances, the town board finds that the proposed compromise and settlement is fair and reasonable and should be approved. Therefore, the proposed settlement of the tax certiorari proceedings brought by WF 5 Mile Line LLC for the year 2022 be and hereby approved. The attorney representing the town be and hereby be directed to make application to the Supreme Court of the State of New York for approval of the settlement, and that upon obtaining such approval, the assessor of the town of Penfield will hereby be directed to make the necessary adjustments in the assessment rolls for the town of Penfield to reflect the terms of the settlement.
And our good attorney is here tonight as well. So, any other discussion? Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization to settle Limestone Development Company LLC tax certiorari proceedings.
So moved.
Second.
I shall not read all that the body of this because it's the same as the body of the previous resolution. But this one is Limestone Development LLC commence proceedings against the assessor and the Board of Assessment Review and other respondents for review of the assessment for the year 2017-2022 to 2022 for the premises located at 100 and 300 Elderwood Court, located within the town of Penfield. Negotiations have been going, and upon due consideration of all the facts and circumstances, the town board finds that the proposed compromise has been reached and settlement is fair and reasonable and should be approved. The proposed settlement of the tax certiorari proceedings brought by Limestone Development for the years 2017 to 2022 be and hereby are approved. The attorney representing the town be hereby directed to make application to the Supreme Court for approval of the settlement, and that upon obtaining such approval, the assessor of the town of Penfield will hereby be directed to make the necessary adjustments to the assessment rolls for the town of Penfield to reflect the terms of the settlement.
Thank you. Any questions? Roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization to settle DeMarco Baytown Associates LLC tax certiorari proceedings.
So moved.
Second.
The Marco Baytown Associates hereby commence proceedings against the assessor and the Board of Assessment Review and other respondents for the review of the assessment for the years 2022-2023 for the premises located at 1900 Empire Boulevard. Negotiations have taken place, and upon due consideration of all the facts and circumstances, the town board finds the proposed compromise and settlement is fair and reasonable to be approved. The proposed settlement of the tax certiorari proceedings brought by DeMarco Baytown Associates for the year 2022-2023 are hereby approved. The attorney representing the town is directed to make an application to the Supreme Court of the State of New York for approval of the settlement, and thereupon obtaining such approval, the assessor of the Town of Penfield will be directed to make the necessary adjustments in the assessment rules for the Town of Penfield to reflect the terms of the agreement, of the settlement.
Great. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign a contract with Bergman PC for an existing conditions assessment and evaluation services of the Clark House.
So moved.
Oh, that's you. That's you.
You get a break.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're on a roll.
I can't
So I'll make a motion for,
And I'll second that.
all right. Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to sign a contract not to exceed $6,600 for services with Bergman PC, Rochester, New York, to provide additional design services for the Clark House located at 600 Wayland Road. This resolution and the proposal submitted by Bergman PC shall constitute the contract. This agreement to be reviewed and approved by the town attorney. Be it further resolved, the town board approves appropriation of $6,600 from the unassigned general fund balance as an amendment to the 2023 budget for these evaluation services.
Okay. Any discussion? No. Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Authorization to auction surplus equipment through RTI, which is Roy Tightsworth Incorporated Auctions Net Auction.
So moved.
Second.
Whereas the Director of Public Works has identified the attached list of equipment as surplus and available for public auction, and whereas the Town Supervisor and the Director of Public Works be granted the authority to amend the attached list prior to final designation as surplus equipment. Now therefore be it resolved that the following list of equipment be declared surplus and that the Director of Public Works be and hereby is authorized to enter into an agreement with Roy Teetsworth, 6502 Barber Hill Road, Geneseo, New York. There's 2 items on the list, a digital display monitor from the library as well as another monitor from Recreation. Be it further resolved that the proceeds resulting from the auction and the sale of this equipment be credited to the appropriate fund.
Right. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. Before I read the next one, I do want to make note that Supervisor Drawe's name was left out of this resolution, so I will be adding it in. Authorization for supervisor to sign recreation contracts.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, the town board authorized the town supervisor to sign this one recreation contract. And it's with Tegan and the Tweeds that provided Allegro Music Entertainment on Saturday, July 1st, 2023 for our 4th of July celebration.
And I can attest, I was there. It was a great show, and I appreciate it. I think everyone had a great time. So, any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Lee. I'm sorry,
no.
Drawe.
Yeah.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes.
Okay, and that leads us into
New business.
no old business, and then we have some new business.
This will be Resolution 23T-163, State Environmental Quality Review Act, seeker, review and determination associated with the local law to amend Town Code, Chapter 94, Building Construction.
So moved.
Second.
Town Board, Town of Penfield wishes to amend the Town Code, Section 94-4, Building Construction. The Town Board is best suited to be lead agency. The action is classified as unlisted action pursuant to seeker. Town Board has considered the action, reviewed the environmental assessment form, thoroughly analyzed any relevant areas of environmental concern associated with the action, and determined that no significant adverse environmental impacts will result from the foregoing action of adopting the foregoing local law. Therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board makes a negative declaration for the purpose of seeker and authorizes the supervisor to sign Part 3 of the EAF, thus concluding its environmental review.
Okay. Any discussion? Again, we just had that public hearing this evening. So roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes. And lastly, adopt a local law to amend Town Code Chapter 94, Building and Construction.
So moved.
Second?
The town determined that one of the listed exemptions in the Penfield Town Code, which was based on the model law by New York State, deviated from the town's previous requirements. The town board and the town conducted a public hearing tonight, July 5th, to consider the proposed draft local law to amend Section 94.4 of the town code to remove the sheds from the list of categories exempt from the obtaining a permit as contained in Section A. The town board designated itself as lead agency, classified the action unlisted pursuant to seeker, reviewed the action's potential impacts, and made a negative declaration, thereby concluding seeker. And whereas the town desires the quick remedy to this technical correction in the town code, therefore be it resolved and hereby enacted by the town board of the town of Penfield for local law number 5 of 2023 set forth in Section A, Schedule A. Be it further resolved, after the adoption of this, the town board, this local law shall take effect immediately upon its filing and office of the Secretary of State of the State of New York. And it's attached to Schedule A, a local law to amend Penfield Code, Chapter 9, Building Construction.
Okay. Any other discussion on that?
Only, like you said, we had the public
had-
hearing tonight. There was no one spoke to it in any
Right. So I think,
negative fashion.
again, a housekeeping thing that got left
Yes.
off, and we just really want to clear that up, so thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Drawe.
Aye.
Kohl.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
3 ayes.
Okay, there's no other new business board before us. We have no executive session this evening. Our next meeting will be on August 2nd, right here. And so I would first like to thank PCTV again for this lengthy broadcast this
Yeah.
evening. So thank you, and thank you all who tuned in, and the audience that came to appreciate it. So again, have a nice evening, and I call this meeting adjourned at 9:39, I'm sorry, 9:39. So be safe, have a nice, enjoy it. I can't believe it's July already. July's here, and next month it'll be, summer goes fast here, but stay cool. I think it's going to be a heat wave the next couple days.
Yeah.
Thank you.